like to ask you the conundrum, if you don't mind. I've asked many women this, and perhaps you will be the one finally, without evading, without changing the subject, because this is the subject we're now talking about. You brought it up. I would like
Okay.
you to actually answer the question this time, please. So here's the conundrum. Man buys Xbox. Woman also wants some other frivolous shit that's not an Xbox, and they're the same price. Man decides to buy the Xbox and not buy her frivolous shit. His reasoning is, listen, my job is super hard, okay? And because it's super hard, I want to have this entertainment time because I think it's going to benefit not just me, but everybody. She says, no, 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 no. I also would like to have whatever this frivolous shit is over here because I think that's the best thing and that will benefit everybody. Who do we defer to?
Mm, I would say the husband. I mean, he gets the final call, especially if he's the breadwinner.
Okay. Now the husband says, I don't want to tell you. Let's change this slightly. The husband says, I don't want to tell you my reasoning. I'm just going to buy it, and you need to stop vexing me. Should she stop vexing him and shut her mouth?
Mm, I mean, I think that it wouldn't be very like kind of him. I don't think it would benefit their relationship for him
Well, it
to
wouldn't be
answer her that
nice.
way.
It wouldn't be nice. I don't know. I don't know how you can adjudicate what kind is, right? Whatever his justifications and reasons are, may be very kind. I don't know why he owes you an explanation. I don't know why he needs to endlessly justify all of his decisions with you if he's the leader.
I mean, I just think that
Uh-huh.
like loving people is communicating with them respectfully.
Oh, I see. I
So
see. So Jesus needed to justify all the things he did to his disciples. Then he needed to justify everything.
that's not what I said.
Okay, got it. So why does the man need to justify his expenditure with you? Why does he need to tell you why?
I didn't
Why
say
is
he
that
has
necessary?
to. I
Yeah, but
said that
why?
it's like
Why is
it's
that even
beneficial to
good?
the relationship to
Yeah,
communicate.
but what if his opinion is it's not?
What like in what world is not communicating beneficial?
Because he thinks that you just are endlessly vexing and he's tired of your nattering and stupid questions and he's like, I'm just going to do what I think is best and you need to shut up.
I mean, that doesn't seem very loving, does it?
I mean, this is perspective, right? And so this is why women like you, I think are so vexing,
Why are you
right?
getting personal?
Vexing. Well, I'm talking about vexing.
Yeah,
This
but
is why I
why are
think
you getting
women like you,
person like
because when I ask this question of women specifically, right, they don't want to answer me. They kind of do the same thing you do. They meander around it. Well, it doesn't seem loving. It doesn't seem nice. It doesn't seem kind. They don't actually answer the question, right? It's perspective, right? It's perspective. So the thing is from his perspective, he's doing the kindest thing possible by not telling you why the expenditure is being done. He's doing the kindest thing possible by telling you to shut your yap. He's doing the kindest thing possible by doing that. From your perspective, it's not kind. From your perspective, it's not nice. From your perspective, it's mean, right?
well
So
why
what does
like
leader so what does leader mean? Does leader mean he leads when you think it's okay for him to lead? Or does it mean that he leads?
leadership means he leads? That doesn't mean he disregards his wife's like feelings or disregards his wife's input. That's not what leadership is either. Like the best military leaders still take input from their second in command.
They
Like
also tell their second in command to shut up and follow orders.
sometimes, but that's not
Uh-huh.
like the quality of the best leaders. Like usually they're the ones
Oh
that are
no.
open
Oh
and
no. I
listen.
don't if you've ever been in the military, you would know that that is a
I
quality
I was
of
definitely in the military.
okay, well, I'm sorry. How many times did you get told to shut up and follow orders?
I like
I mean,
again, I don't
honestly,
know. I don't know why you want to be so personal. Like
I'm
why
not being
can't you
personal.
have the
I'm
conversation?
asking you a question. How many times in the military were you told to shut up and follow orders? How's that personal? How would that even be remotely personal? How many times? A dozen? 2 dozen? 4
I don't
dozen?
I didn't count how many
A lot.
times,
Like a
like,
lot though, right?
I mean, no, not really in those words. Like, we're just like, depending on what rank you are, like, you don't
Mm-hmm.
really have input. But I'm talking about when a commander has
Mm-hmm.
like a lieutenant, or, or a first sergeant,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to take their input. They don't just
Well,
say,
when you had
shut up and
a,
follow orders.
I
And
assume
I'm
you went
saying
to
that,
like Fort Leonard Wood or something like that, right?
what?
I'm just assuming. Were you Army?
Yes, I was in the Army.
Okay, so like you went to like Fort Leonard Wood or someplace like that, I would assume, for
I
your
went to
basic
Fort
training.
Sill and then to Fort Bragg.
Okay, so you went to the home of the artillery, and then you were okay, got it. So you're at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and you had drill sergeants, I assume.
Yes, sir.
Was there any time when the drill sergeant justified anything to you ever,
I mean,
even once?
they communicated what they
Yeah,
wanted
but did they
clearly
make a
and why.
Yeah, no, they didn't always communicate why.
Yeah, they
If they
did.
walk, no, they didn't. They said get out of bed and then walked off. Did they clearly communicate why you needed to get out of bed?
Well, like, we know why we need to get out of bed. We have to get out of bed for the same
Okay,
reason every
so
day.
then,
But if
right,
they say,
so then they didn't
if they were
communicate
like,
that.
oh, today we're doing land nav, we're going to do this and this is there's like a whole list that you have to go
Hmm.
through in a military class that explains
Hmm.
like the who, what, when, where, and why of what you're learning.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So the drill sergeants you had justified everything that they wanted you to do. I just want to be
They
clear that
explained
that's your
why we
position.
learned everything we learned, yes.
Yeah, that's not what I asked you. Did they justify the reason every single time they told you to do something, they gave you a justification for it?
They communicated the reasons we were doing everything, so there really wasn't a
Okay.
need.
Got it. Okay, fine. If you want to continue with like the bad faith end, we can do that.
It's
So
bad
we'll
faith.
just drive in. We'll just drive in. Yeah, I literally don't believe it for a minute that your drill sergeants justified every time they gave you a fucking command. I just don't believe you.
I don't believe that you believe a healthy marriage is just like
What do you mean a healthy
refusing.
marriage? You know, you say you have to stay married to a fucking person. They diddle kids. Like, what are you talking about by healthy marriage here?
I did not say that, Andrew.
Literally said that multiple times. I got you on record saying it multiple times.
That was never my intent. You were the one who brought up diddling kids. My
Mm-hmm.
point in bringing up that marriage is supposed to be something that you don't break easily wasn't
Mm-hmm.
intended to involve people diddling kids. That's where your mind went.
Yeah, because I needed to test your logic, and I did, and so we were
You're not
able to.
testing my logic.
Yeah, that's
You're
exactly
taking,
what that's doing. It's
again, you're
testing your
doing the
logic.
same thing a pro-abortion advocate does
Yeah, they
when
test your
you
logic
say,
too. Yep,
no,
that's
you're
true.
doing the same thing they do whenever a person says, hey, abortion is wrong. And
Yep,
99.9% of the time, it's because an adult woman had consensual sex and wants to get rid of the baby. And you're
that's
going,
true.
but what about the raped 10-year-old? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, we could talk about that on an individual basis, but that's really not for the purpose of the discussion. What's going on here? The
Yeah,
purpose of the
but here's the
discussion is to
thing.
discuss
Yeah,
99% of marriages.
but here's the thing. Shouldn't you have an argument against the
Because
outlier too?
99% of divorces are occurring because of differences of opinion, not because the guy's diddling kids,
I
Andrew. And we
agree.
all
I
know
agree.
that.
But I don't understand why you can't argue against both things.
The reason
I
is
don't get that.
because you don't legislate to the extremes. Like, you don't base like the general, like when you talk about general cases and talk about what's
Mhm.
generally correct,
Yeah.
you don't legislate to the extremes. So example, I shouldn't be
Wait,
able to just leave. Hold on. I
wait a
shouldn't be
second. Well,
able
I
to
need to
just
clarify one
I
thing.
shouldn't be able to just leave my husband because he raises his voice at me because some other lady down the street needs to leave her husband for diddling kids. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like
Yeah, but that was never. But you're equivocating. So you're
you
totally equivocating. If you're talking about
yeah, but now,
abortion,
but see,
if you're talking about
this is what
abortion,
I was afraid of. You
hmm
bring up this lady who got gangbanged by five guys and made me defend
hmm
her. Then you bring up the guy
well, I didn't
diddling
make you
kids.
defend her. How did I make you
Yes,
do
you
that?
did.
Really?
Because
I
you
strong armed you? Did I hold you down and make you defend this woman, or?
because you bring up the most crazy scenarios.
Yeah, I test your
Like,
logic. That's correct. Yes.
that's not testing my logic. That's
You
bringing up an
have, yeah, no,
extreme
no.
case.
Yeah, you use extremities and hypothetical to test logic.
So by the extreme logic, is it okay to just blanket, like, to give abortions to 10-year-olds because they got raped?
No,
Why?
because abortion's murder, regardless of the age of the person having the
What
child.
if it's going to kill the 10-year-old?
Well, that's different. Then you have to make the arguments on behalf of the mother, which is fair, right? So if you're asking a person to adjudicate between two lives at this point, even from the Christian ethics angle, you can say, okay, if it's guaranteed to kill the mother, then yes, at that point, we have a serious and significant moral dilemma. And if you defer to the mother, no Christian's going to tell you not to do that.
So
However,
when the
how,
pro
hang on,
aborts,
hang on, hang on, hang on.
okay.
Let me finish the argument. Okay. But if a pro-abortion advocate says, "What about X age was raped?" Okay, if you have ever watched me do an abortion debate, you would know my stance on this. Why would it be okay because you were raped to get an abortion? That makes no sense.
So you don't think they ever have valid points about a child being traumatized by pregnancy, having her life irrevocably altered, so on and so forth? Because
How does that
again,
justify murder?
it doesn't, but I'm going to tell
Right.
you that those arguments still pull on heartstrings
Well,
because they
that's
do tug
nice.
on mine because if I had a 10-year-old daughter who I was looking at who might have to go through pregnancy, I would feel like I would probably pause. I don't think I would have her get
Sure.
an aburbtion,
Yeah.
but I would pause because
Yeah,
I'd just
that's
be like,
rhetoric.
man, this
But do
is
you
going to be like,
understand? Do you understand the difference between rhetoric and logic? What I'm saying is that you should have arguments ready, logical arguments against this. And you're saying,
okay,
well,
that's
okay,
fine,
people make,
but the
hang on, it's my turn, my turn.
it's not
But you
your
say
turn,
people
Andrew. You
make,
don't let me talk.
I literally just let you go on this whole
No, you
diatribe.
didn't. I was trying to
Okay,
explain
you
to
go
you that if
ahead.
I had, I'm
You
trying to
go
tell,
ahead.
let me
Go
finish
ahead.
a thought. Let me finish
Go
a
ahead.
thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was trying to explain to you that if I had a daughter who was 10 years old and she was pregnant, I can see from their point of view, it would be hard to watch her go through a pregnancy. And I would probably pause. So I understand what they're saying. So,
Mm-hmm.
but when they do that, that's their purpose in doing so, is they're trying to twist a moral truth by bringing up an extreme. What I was trying to illustrate to you was that it's a moral truth that marriage should be a permanent thing that people don't just leave.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, and
but this is
you hold
incorrect,
on.
though.
Just wait.
Oh, okay.
Just
Well, can we do
wait.
one
You
point at a
can't
time
stop
or?
interrupting. Like, please just let me finish. Because you're literally telling me
Okay.
that I want women to stay
I'm
married to
gonna
child
put,
molesters.
I'm gonna
Like
put
that's
3 minutes.
literally the position you're
Yeah.
assigning to me. And
Well,
that
that's
was
it was your
never like,
position. So,
no, it's not.
okay, go
Because
ahead.
again, when they do it, it's
Hmm.
evil because they're trying to take a moral position that we have, which is that abortion is wrong, but they're trying to find a way in which that holding to that moral principle is going to be like a little bit gray, a little bit, it's going to make people a little queasy.
Hmm.
And then they're backpacking it all the way to all of the other to apply it to all the other 99% of abortions. And you did that to me the same way they do with abortion. I was trying to tell you that divorce is something that God hates because he wants marriage to represent his relationship with us and that it's unbreakable. That once we place our faith in him, we can't lose our salvation. He wants us to have faith in that. So he hates divorce. It even says it in the Bible, God hates divorce.
Hmm.
Okay. So I was trying to make that point, and then I'm trying to hold to it to show you,
Hmm.
in other words, so that people can have faith in God. And you, on the other hand, wanted to pull out, well, what if a woman is married to a guy who's diddling kids her whole life? And like, yeah. And it's just like, well, obviously, like that would be something that we would all want to sit down and talk about. Like, what should we do here? This is clearly not a normal situation. Okay. But it's like, you're not giving because you're taking it to that extreme, you're using the same dishonest tactic of trying to find the most outlandish situation you can to dismantle my point. And that's not logic, Andrew. Just
It
like
is
when the
logic.
pro-aborts do it, it's not logic.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
logic when they
logic.
do it
Like
too.
our divorce rate is ridiculous.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And it's
but
not all women divorcing child
okay. So
molesters.
now let me refute all of this very quickly. I'll just refute it all. So first of all, it is logical for pro-abortion advocates to ask you about the extreme cases because they're checking for consistency. So they're trying to say, why is it okay to not murder this fetus at this age? Okay, in this case, the baby, you and I would say, but their language, the fetus. Why is it okay to murder or not murder the fetus at 1 week or 1 day because it starts at conception? But if a 10-year-old was brutally raped, okay, brutally raped and got pregnant, okay, would you allow an abortion then? If you say yes, well, then we have a problem with your logical consistency because now you're saying it's okay to murder, right? And giving a justification for when it's okay to murder. That is totally fucking logical. Second, okay, when I use an example of when it's okay to get divorced, I started with your metric for when and how. We never really got anywhere there because you don't actually know. You don't really
Yeah,
know.
because you
Well, hang
instantly
on,
took
it's
it
my
to
turn, my
people
turn. I
getting
just let you
gangbanged
talk.
and diddling kids, Andrew.
Literally just let you talk. My turn. So we didn't get anywhere there because you didn't even know what the method would be if you were in a covenant marriage to end it. Finally, I logically showed you that it had to be you, and you went, oh shit, I guess he's right. Then you moved from there when I started testing the extreme examples of you're with a man who does X, and by the way, there are men who do that, who women are married to. So what is our solution for them? You claimed over and over and over and over it was for them to move away from the man and stay married to them for the rest of their life. How now? How were you tricked into this?
I didn't say you
How did
tricked
I
me.
use
I
how did
said
I
that you're
use like
being
evil trickery and devious tactics by just testing your basic logic?
because it doesn't apply to the 99% of people that get divorced that their husband is diddling kids. Then that's what I mean. Is I was trying to stay within the confines of what normally happens, and I was trying to show you and talk to you about how easily people give up on their marriages and how easily like men walk away like, oh, screw this, I don't want this responsibility, she's a nag. And women walk away, oh, screw this, like he doesn't talk to me right or he doesn't give me enough attention, and they walk away. That's most of divorces. Okay, so I was
Yeah,
trying to
I agree. I
illustrate the
agree. What
point.
does that have to do with my point though?
Because you brought up your point as like a some kind of way to like break down the
Check.
fact that
Yeah,
God
you
hates
check
divorce.
the
Like,
just
why would
checking
you
the
want to prove that it's okay to get
just
divorced?
checking the consistency. Well, because I think
It,
there's instances where it is okay to get divorced. Totally okay.
right, but it still reiterates in scripture that he hates it even when it has to happen, which was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that means what you think it means. I'm not sure that God would hate the fact that you got divorced from somebody who, like, oh, I don't know, raped your daughter. Do you think it would be okay to get a divorce from him then? Do you think God would really hate that?
I think he hates the whole thing. I think he hates that the person raped anybody, and I think he hates that there has to be a divorce. I think he can
Yeah.
hate multiple things at
But
once.
is that your fault? Do you think he
So
hates you for getting that divorce?
there's a story in Joshua where the
Okay, I just
Gideonites.
need you to answer the question, please. Do you think
I
he hates
am.
you?
There's
You're no, I don't care
I
about your
don't think
fucking,
he hates
I don't
people.
care
No,
about your bullshit. I'm asking
I
you
don't
the
think
question.
it's not my bullshit. I'm telling you the a Bible story. And
Oh
no, I
yeah.
don't think he
Okay.
hates people. I don't think
Here,
he
I'll
hates
just
people.
from now on, I'll just move over to no. Okay, so great. So he doesn't hate you for getting the divorce. He's not upset.
I
Have you
said he
sinned?
hates divorce. I
Yeah.
never
Okay.
said he hated
Have
people.
you sinned? Have you sinned by getting that divorce? Have you sinned?
Yes.
Okay, so you have sinned by divorcing a man who raped your daughter. Just want to make sure we're clear.
Yeah, divorce is always a sin, even if there's
Okay,
a good reason for it. It's still a
gotcha. Okay,
sin.
okay, gotcha. It's still a sin, and so you think, so do you think we should avoid sin?
My Lord, have mercy.
Do you think we
Okay.
should avoid sin?
You don't avoid sin by sinning again.
Okay, well, how would it be a sin to stay married? Exactly.
It would be a sin not to hold the person accountable if you know that they're hurting
Yeah,
people.
that wasn't what I asked you. I asked you how it would be a sin to stay married. Exactly. How would that be a sin?
So, can I give you the example I wanted to give you because it answers your question?
No, okay, you can read whatever you want.
I don't want to read.
I know already that it's not going to answer anything, but go ahead.
All right. So, in Joshua, he was tricked by this group, the Gideonites, that they walked farther than they actually did because God had given them a command to defeat everyone within a certain radius of the land that he had given them. And the Gideonites like fake wore out their shoes, their clothes, They like made themselves look all dirty and they said, we've come from X amount of miles away and, you know, we just want to like stay here with you. Okay. And Joshua fell for their trick and entered into a covenant with them that he wouldn't hurt them.
Hmm.
Okay. Even though they had tricked him into it. And God
Okay.
still made him hold to the covenant. Like he wouldn't let Joshua break it because he takes covenants that seriously. So
Okay.
while you're just trying to pick apart what I'm saying with worldly logic, again, I'm trying to illustrate
wait,
like the nature
wait,
of God
wait, wait,
here.
wait, wait. Worldly logic.
Yes.
What is worldly logic?
Worldly logic is what you're doing. It's like you're trying to like come down out of like the scripture and you're trying to like apply all of these crazy like fallen scenarios to things that makes God's ideal like imperfect. So it's like of
This is
course so it's like of
hang on. This
course
is
the way that
absolutely
God
hilarious.
it's
I just,
hilarious.
yeah, I'll explain why it's hilarious when you say worldly logic. It's like
Yeah,
nonsensical.
because you
So,
had that same argument with Jess earlier.
yeah,
Um
well, here, no, I'll just make it super easy for you. Logic means philosophy, right? It literally means love of wisdom. Do you agree that Christ is the fountain of all wisdom?
yes, Christ is the
Okay,
fountain of all
great,
wisdom.
great. And is logic an extension of philosophy?
I mean, some philosophy can be flawed.
Okay, so again, is philosophy means love of wisdom. Do you agree with me that Christ is the fountain of all wisdom?
Yes, I agree that Christ is the
Okay,
fountain of all
great.
wisdom.
I agree too. Okay. And logic is an extension of philosophy. When you say worldly logic, do you know what that means? That means that you're not appealing to Christ as the fount of wisdom. You're appealing to something else. That's worldly logic. Hope that clarifies for you. So in the future, you don't embarrass yourself by saying something as silly as worldly logic when we're both appealing to the same fount of wisdom for logic,
But
Christ.
we're not.
We are, right? I'm appealing literally to Christian ethics, literally, 100%.
But you keep using like the most sinful like examples you can think of
Yeah,
and
duh.
you're
Yeah,
applying you're
that's logic. Yeah, that's correct. That is logic.
no,
Do you
it's
think that,
not.
I'm sorry. Do you think that Christ um and do you think that the apostles were not able to engage in hypothetical thinking and
I
complex thinking? That's really weird.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not
Yeah, so I
denying that we can have complex
so
thinking.
so worldly logic is when your appeal is to something opposite of Christ. Christ being the fount of all wisdom. That's worldly logic. I'm appealing to Christ for my fount of wisdom. Logic.
Okay,
I
so
believe that part of the nature of God is logic. There's a meta ethical foundation for logic. The meta ethical foundation for logic is God.
I haven't denied any of that.
Good. So then when you say worldly logic, I don't know why you keep on saying that I'm appealing to something other than Christian ethics, because I most certainly am not. When I ask you and
Because you're
when I'm
measuring
testing
things the
your
way
logic, I
you're
believe
measuring. Let me
that
explain.
logic, well,
All
let
right,
me
I've let
explain
you
the
go
rest of
on.
my position. I'm almost done. When I express
You're repeating yourself.
what logic is, well, because you don't understand, so I have to
I
explain.
do understand. I'm about to
Okay,
tell you
what
something.
does metaethics mean? Just tell me what that means. No, you don't understand. You see, you don't actually understand, and that's why I keep trying to explain it to you. You don't even know you don't actually even understand what I'm saying to you, and you just keep on saying like, "Oh, you're so prideful. You're so pride." You don't even actually understand what I'm saying to you, and yet you call me prideful. You could just ask.
Can I talk now?
Go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is that you keep taking these principles that I'm talking about that
Mhm.
God espoused, and instead of like understanding what I'm saying, you keep bringing them down into like the most debased scenarios you can come
Wow.
up with which of course, like that's the reason the earth is fallen, right? Is because it doesn't meet God's standard. And so of course there has to be all these little like exceptions to things when we're fallen. I'm telling you what his high ideal is, and I'm telling you how we're trying to meet it as followers of Christ. And then you're bringing us back into like unbelieving territory where people are diddling kids. And you're like, this is why God's logic doesn't work, because all I'm giving you
What?
is his standard. And now
Okay.
you and then you're arguing against his standard. I'm saying he doesn't like divorce. And you're like, but sometimes divorce is necessary. And I'm like, yeah, sometimes it unfortunately is, but that breaks his heart. And we're supposed to try to avoid that. And then I'm like, and I gave you the example of how Joshua entered into a bad covenant by
Hmm.
worldly standards.
Hmm.
Since they lied to enter into that covenant, Joshua technically shouldn't have to honor it by any worldly standard. And that's what I meant by worldly logic. By any worldly standard, Joshua should not have had to remain in that covenant with the Gideonites, but by God's standard, which is higher than ours,
I'm sorry.
he
I'm sorry.
did.
Can I ask you a question? Wasn't that covenant broken?
No.
Are you sure?
I mean, I think he eventually did, but God told them not to, is my
Okay,
point.
but he did break the covenant. I just want to make sure we're clear.
I think
Is that
eventually it
correct?
did get broken. Yes, I'd
Okay.
have to go back and look, but yeah, I
So
think eventually it
yeah.
did.
So now hang
But
on.
that
Let
doesn't mean
me.
it was
Okay.
right,
I
because the
just
point is
let you
God
go on
gave
the
them the
whole
command not
diatribe.
to.
Just want let you go
Huh?
on the whole diatribe. Let me respond. So I'm just going to respond with a really, really super simple question, and I'm not trying to insult you. I'm actually
Okay,
trying
that's a
to.
lie.
I'm really not. I'm actually trying to help you here. I really
Oh yeah,
am.
yeah, because I'm in trouble.
Yeah, well, I mean, you are because you don't understand
I'm
logic, but
not.
I'm going to help. Well, okay, here's the basic question. It's a super simple question, and I would like you to answer it. Okay, you won't, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Can God create a rock too heavy for him to lift?
He can't create a contradiction of logic.
Wait, what? He can't?
God can't contradict logic. Like he created logic, so he can't contradict himself.
Oh, so logic's part of God's nature.
Right.
Oh, wait, so that's so weird, right? And how do we determine whether or not somebody's using proper logic or not? What would they appeal to for that?
They would appeal to God's standard.
Right. They would appeal to uh, anything which could not be a contradiction also would have to be part of God's nature, as you just
Right.
got done
But do
telling
you
me.
do you
Hang
agree
on, it's my
that
turn, my turn. You just got done saying to me that no, God cannot perform a contradiction because it's not part of his nature, right?
right.
So when you endlessly contradict yourself, right, you are not within the appeal to God's nature, right?
I I'm not contradicting myself.
Yeah, I caught you in multiple contradictions. And that's why I appeal to logic, because I believe that philosophy is the ultimate, or philosophy, which is the pursuit of wisdom, is pursuing Jesus Christ, the ultimate font of wisdom.
Do you agree
That's,
that things that occur on earth contradict with God's will?
well, they don't contradict with God's will, they don't follow God's will. Contradiction is a specific thing.
Okay, so do you believe that things that happen on earth go against what God would prefer?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay. So, just the fact that since I'm talking about things that God prefers and you're talking about things that occur against God's will, it makes
Uh-huh.
sense that when you pull me down into that area, what I said, like what actually is versus what should be, is going to contradict, right?
No, that doesn't
Yes.
follow. That literally
Yes,
doesn't
because
follow.
again, God doesn't want anyone to get divorced, preferably. However,
Uh-huh.
you're right, because some people are so depraved
Yeah,
that they can cause so much damage. Sometimes it becomes necessary that that's the only like way out.
great. Now, can you help me with
Okay,
this
hold
last part
on.
then? Okay, go ahead.
No,
Keep
you're
going.
not, you
Go
never let
ahead.
me finish a
I
thought. It's
just
like
said
you're
go
afraid of
ahead.
it.
Yeah,
So,
okay. I'm afraid of your thoughts. I'm afraid
right.
you won't
So
actually
anyway,
make a thought, but
well
yes.
then just let me make a fool of myself then. How about that?
Okay, go ahead.
You
Make.
should never interrupt your component when they're making a fool of
I told you I was
themselves.
trying to help you, but
Okay.
go ahead.
Well, I don't want it. Okay, so anyway,
I know, but I'm the prideful
So
one.
if God
By the
prefers
way,
no
I'm the
divorce,
prideful one. Remember,
if God
buddy.
prefers no divorce, and
Mhm.
then sometimes people get divorced because a situation has occurred that's so awful that to stay married would actually be more sinful than to just get divorced, which is the
Mhm.
only times it's allowable. And again, that's not God's preference. Then that means something happened that contradicted God's ideal or God's standard. You said
Right.
logic is God's standard. So I'm not
Well, no, I didn't
contradicting
say logic is
logic.
God's standard. I did not say
You
that. What I
said
said is
logic
it's part of
proceeds from
God's
God's
nature.
standard.
No, I said it's part of God's nature.
Okay, well, God's nature is for people to never get divorced. But things happen logically
God's
that,
nature is that people never get
in a
divorced.
worldly way where people
Wait.
need to get divorced because something so horrible has happened that
Hmm.
they have to. But that still contradicts God's nature. That's not what he intended. That's not what he wants.
Well, I'm
So
not
you
sure
haven't
how
caught me
that
in a
well
contradiction.
that
What you've done
you're just
is
babbling.
what you've done is you've listened to me espouse what God prefers, and then
Hmm.
you've created scenarios that are so awful it contradicts what God would prefer, and then said that I've contradicted myself.
You did contradict yourself.
No,
You changed your stance multiple times, and I literally
no,
recorded it. You can listen to it back. You contradicted yourself.
right. And I
I, in
just
fact,
explained how that happened.
yeah, because you had an
Because
inconsistent position, and you
I do have
changed
a
it.
consistent position. My
No,
consistent
only
position is
after you
that
changed
God
it.
hates divorce
Yeah,
and
okay,
that he
but
doesn't want us to get divorced. That doesn't
right,
mean that
but
human beings can't
you
ruin
said that.
that.
Okay, but I asked you if they should under X circumstance, X circumstance, X circumstance. Your answer was no, they should not.
They
Eh,
shouldn't. Like
Okay,
people shouldn't ever
wait,
have
they
to get
shouldn't.
divorced.
Well, wait, ever
But
have to was not the question. Should they? If X thing happens, the answer is yes. And now you just double down on that again?
I'm comfortable with people listening to this and understanding what I'm trying to
Uh-huh.
say. Like
Oh, okay.
I understand that you seem to be unable to just have like a discussion that doesn't go into this like really divisive negative direction, because again, when I was trying to say establish the role of a man in a marriage, you immediately went to, well, what if he has a nagging wife who makes him work too hard? It's like that's the first place your mind went. Like
Hmm.
why can't you have a discussion that doesn't like turn into this man versus woman thing?
That's hasn't even
Like
happened. There
cuz
hasn't been any.
honestly the
There's no.
purpose
Okay, my turn. Okay, you just prattled
the
for like an
purpose of
hour.
this
Calm down.
conversation was supposed to show how men and women both need each other.
Well, that was your purpose. I don't know what what all your purposes for the conversation were. That's outside
Yes,
my purview.
my purpose is to
So,
demonstrate that
but
God created men and women to
yeah,
complement and need each other and take care of
yeah.
each
But you
other.
have to. Okay, so just so you understand, okay, I would like to just very quickly ask you then this last follow up. Okay, if you were to get married in a covenant marriage, absent a courthouse, right? How would you get divorced?
I wouldn't get divorced. I don't want to get divorced.
Yeah,
I
okay.
want to honor God.
Yeah, how would you though?
I don't want to get divorced.
Yeah, I know, but how would
I
you?
didn't have this conversation with you to discuss how I could possibly get divorced.
Yeah, but
I
how
wanted to
okay, well
illustrate
then
how
how
men
would
and
a
women are designed by
okay,
God to complement each other. Why are
then
you
if a
afraid of that
woman
point?
so then if a woman who holds your worldview was not married by a courthouse but in a covenant marriage, how would she get divorced?
Why don't you want to talk about how God created men and women to complement each other, Andrew?
Okay, so can you just answer my question?
I've already answered enough of your questions. I wanted to talk about why men and women complement each other and
Yeah,
why they
okay, and
were made by
we
God
can
to
do that.
complement
We
each
can do
other.
that as soon. We're almost done with this. I just went through all of your nonsense.
We
Can you
already talked
answer?
about this. I
Yeah, can
already
you
said
answer?
that and I
Can you
already
answer?
told you that
Yeah.
that two people could just walk away from each other. That's the only way to do it. Like you, but I'm not. But I don't think God would honor it. I think if they both of them were to walk away from each other and marry other people,
Hmm.
like you said, barring some extreme circumstance,
Hmm.
if both of them were to walk away from each other and marry other people, they would be held accountable for that by God
Okay.
later.
So then so if you are or she is the person who can break the covenant by saying, okay, I have declared this covenant is broken. Can she do the same thing with marriage? Can she just declare herself married?
It takes two people.
Yeah. Can they just declare themselves married?
Like in what way do you mean? Like you
A
saying
covenant
people have
marriage,
to
a
have a
covenant.
wedding?
Yeah, no, just in a covenant marriage. Does this need to be officiated over by somebody or not?
I mean, yeah, usually things are established before witnesses and things like that.
Does it need to be though?
I mean, I've found implication in the Bible that just sleeping with someone, God would consider you married because he established that as a rule anyway, that if a man sleeps with a woman who's unmarried, he's required to marry her.
So then would it be appropriate if I'm ever on the whatever podcast and a woman says that she's a Christian for me to ask how many men she's married to?
I mean, isn't that what Jesus said to the woman at the well?
Hmm. Well, no, she was actually physically with those women, those men, all of them.
Right. And Jesus
Yeah.
said, you've had 5 husbands because she slept with 5 people. That's why he said 5 husbands.
Yeah. So the thing is again, I have to ask you, right? So how many husbands have you had, or I've had? How many wives have I had? Or are you saying that all of your friends who are women have many husbands?
That's probably what Jesus would say to them. That's what he said
Well,
to
I'm
her.
asking you. Why won't you answer?
Because I don't care what I think. I care what Jesus would do.
Okay, so is it your position then that that you and most of your friends have many husbands?
If a woman has slept with multiple men,
Uh-huh.
then per God's view, she has many husbands.
Okay, so you have it.
That's what
So
Jesus said to the woman at the well. So it follows he would say it to anybody who's slept with many people.
now forgive me, but I feel like you've been somewhat public with your personal life, right? So I'm not
Okay,
bringing up.
wait. We're not going to get personal. I haven't gotten
I'm just,
personal with you.
I'm
I'm
not.
not interested in getting
Listen,
personal.
this is stuff you talked about publicly.
I know, but I didn't come on here to discuss my
I'm just
public life or my
asking.
personal
I'm
life.
just asking how many husbands you would have.
I didn't come on here to discuss my personal life.
Well, would it be more than one? That's my question.
Yes.
Okay, more than one husband. So are you engaging in polygamy?
No.
Okay. So what the fuck does husband here mean then?
Are you still trying to do the Protestant versus like Orthodox thing?
No,
Like,
I'm just
because
trying to very clearly
I'm just trying to
understand your
understand what
position about marriage because I don't
I don't know.
understand
I
it.
don't understand what you're trying to say. Like, just I would prefer that you make your
I'm not
point.
trying to say anything. I'm literally trying to understand your position.
Like
So I
like
can't
again,
I can't understand your position if I can't inquire about your position
I came on here to discuss how men and women are supposed to ultimately be complementary, and I feel like you're really trying hard to
to
like
understand your position. Yes, I am.
no, to try to like steer the conversation in any other direction, and I don't
No,
understand. Like what
okay. No, we've been talking about the compatibility of men and women this entire time. You agree with me that marriage is key to the compatibility of men and women. You agree with that 100%. So this entire time, I've been inquiring into your worldview and you into mine about what marriage is. In order for me to do that, I need to be able to define the terms and understand what it is you mean when you say certain things. So when you say men who have slept with multiple or women who've slept with multiple men, she's married to all of them. But then at the same time, you say, okay, but even though I'm married to multiple men, I'm not a polygamist. I need you to square that for me so I understand what you're talking about.
because
Why is all of this
because
always, from your perspective, a personal attack when I try to understand what the fuck you're talking about?
Andrew, like please don't pretend you're speaking in such a way that's like neutral. You're definitely speaking in a way that's condescending. You've called me stupid
Oh,
multiple
listen,
times.
it is super frustrating to talk to a person who refuses to answer questions, refuses to define their terms, refuses to tell me what they mean when I ask a basic inquiry. That is super frustrating. Super frustrating. So
I would
yes,
agree with
I'm
that.
sorry. I'm sorry that I have a very combative tone with you, but the only way I can get answers out of you is to literally badger them out of you.
I'm actually pretty easy to talk to if
Well,
you
then
like just talk to me
well,
respectfully.
okay, great. So let me use the best tone I possibly can, right? So like, man, like, what does that mean when you like have a husband and stuff, man? What is like even a husband? What is that, man? Like, what does husband mean now? What does that mean?
It's a covenant you enter into that has a commitment and it usually involves sexual activity. You generally raise kids together. It's a marriage covenant.
Okay, so we have a fictitious woman, and she slept with 5 men. She's married to all of them, right?
No,
Uh, no, what? Wait, what? What?
she,
I am so confused. I'm not. I'm like. I'm literally at this point. I'm just confused. Like every time I ask you a question and then you clarify it, 2 minutes later you contradict your previous position. So it's like it's super confusing to me and very frustrating for me, right? You can understand that, right?
I'm
Because just
sorry. This
like
must be so hard for you.
like 4 minutes ago, no, I'm sorry, 3 minutes ago, I just asked you if every single man a woman has slept with, she's married to, you said yes. And then when I just said just now, so if you have a woman who's slept with 5 men, she's married to all of them, right? You said no. That's a direct literal contradiction.
Not at the same time.
What?
So when you said, how do you get divorced? I said, if you walk away without commitment to the person, then you're basically initiating your own divorce. God may or may not recognize it. Okay. In the case of the woman at the well, it sounds like she had multiple relationships that were sexual. So when she encountered Jesus, he said, you're right that you don't have a husband right now. You have five. And the guy you're like living with now is not your husband. Okay. So Jesus was illustrating that she jumped from relationship to relationship. Okay. That's not to say that she's currently married to five people. He's saying she's had five husbands. So the fact that none of them had any long term commitment, okay, I'm assuming, like, from God's perspective, okay, you had five husbands and five divorces, obviously, since you moved on to another person. Now, is that a sin? Yes. But it doesn't
Uh,
mean like she's like committed to five people at once. It's not polygamy.
okay, so earlier you said that you don't think God accepts the divorce.
Right.
So if God doesn't accept the divorce, she's still married to those people.
Right. I'm not saying that she's not sinning, but I'm saying, like, from a
No, no, no.
worldly
Hang on, hang
perspective.
on, hang on. I just went through. Just let me ask a couple of questions, right?
Well, I can explain.
Yeah, but
From a
I don't.
worldly
I don't.
perspective,
I already
she's,
understand the position. I just want to ask the clarifying questions. Okay, for me, so that I understand what you're saying. Just clarifying. That's all I'm
again, I
doing.
wanted to talk about biblical roles in a normal marriage. I didn't want to play these games
How
like
is this
about
not a
five
normal
marriages
marriage?
and
How is this not a normal marriage? Your position on marriage is that if you fuck a dude, you're married to him. That's your position. Most women have fucked dudes before they get married. How is this not normal in marriage?
because the point, like, what now under grace, if a woman repents of the sins of before and then gets married, God has given her a clean slate.
What?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure. So, if God does not accept the divorce when you wake up the next morning and you yawn, right after you not you, but okay, some fictitious woman, because anytime I say you, you actually think I'm talking about you. So
Are we
just
talking are we talking
we're
about
gonna say
believers
Susie
or
from now on.
unbelievers?
From now on, we're gonna say Susie, Susan. Okay, so Susan is she's fucking in a bed with a dude. She woke up in the morning. Okay, they had a night of sex. They're now married because they slept with each other. God does not accept when she leaves that they're divorced. Correct?
Is she a believer or an unbeliever?
She's a believer.
Then no. He's
Okay.
not going to accept that because she knows
Okay.
better.
She's a non-believer.
Then that's a sin that she's going to have to repent of when she comes to Christ if she wants to get married and have a normal marriage.
Okay, but they're not married if she's not a believer.
I mean, is does it matter either way if she comes to Christ
It
and she's not
matters.
with
Yes, it
that God?
matters. It totally
I mean, it
matters.
matter, like, yes, it matters to God, but it's like she isn't trying to hold to God's standard. So she's not going to.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know that she's not. I'm simply clarifying. That's all I'm doing is clarifying. If a chick
Okay,
who
so
doesn't believe in God fucks a dude, is she married to him or not?
I don't know if God's trying to hold unbelievers to this same standard. I don't know. Like it doesn't say in the Bible if we have to hold unbelievers to that kind of standard.
Wait, well, you can't hold dual ethics, right? You can't hold a dual set of ethics. So either you follow
It's
Christian
not
ethics
dual
or you
ethics.
don't.
It's not dual ethics, but God didn't expect Gentiles to abide by the Mosaic law. I mean,
Yeah, you don't follow the Mosaic law. You're a Christian.
I'm not saying I follow the Mosaic law, but I'm saying
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
can't hold unbelievers to a Christian ideal, especially like
Yes,
when
you
they come to.
can. Why can't you? What are you talking about? Of course you can. How else would you know that they were unbelievers?
I'm saying you can judge their actions as immoral, but I can't be like, oh, you're married, like because it's like they're not honoring that kind of covenant in the way that God would. It- It's like
Okay.
marriage is
Okay.
for
So
marriage
so
is a Christian concept.
all right. So let's untangle this then. So if you're not a Christian and you fuck a dude, you're not married. If you are a Christian, you fuck a dude, you are married. Is that right?
Yeah, because as a
Okay.
Christian, you should understand that sex is for the confines of marriage. As an unbeliever, they've possibly not been taught that. They might be
Okay.
ignorant.
Got it. So
I don't know.
non-believers, they fuck, they're not married. You fuck, you're married. Or Susie. Susie
I mean, are
fucks,
you
she's
do you
married.
not see the difference between somebody who's agreed to hold to hold to a standard and follow a standard versus somebody who isn't?
Well, I don't think that having sex with a person, you agreed to a covenant marriage. So I don't even understand your position here.
Well, I mean, does God say that sex is okay in any other circumstance?
You're saying God holds you to a standard of a covenant marriage because you believe in God, but does not hold a non-believer to the same standard because he does not believe in God.
God's overall standard is that sex is for marriage.
I agree.
So
Yeah,
so anyone who's
but that
having
doesn't mean you're
sex,
married. That doesn't mean you're married to a person because you had sex with them. That's
so
like
it's
these are
like
two
it's
totally different concepts.
but it's here's the thing though. If you're a person, say you're like two Christian teenagers.
Uh-huh.
Say they have premarital sex when they're 18, they get married 2 years later when they're 20. Neither one of
Uh-huh.
them ever sleep with anybody else. Do you think God is going to call the fact that they had sex at 18 a sin?
Yes, absolutely. They're not married. There's no marriage. There's no sacrament, right?
I don't know. I
What
kind
is
of
I'm
think
sorry, I'm sorry. What does sex out of wedlock to you mean? Like what is wedlock? Is wedlock you just you stick your penis in a chick and now you're married to her? Really?
well, I mean, here's the reason I
That's our
question that is
standard?
because well, here's the reason I question that is because like Adam and Eve didn't have like somebody to marry them. Like there was no sacrament. There was no, the Levitical priesthood hadn't been established. So it's like they probably got married just by consummating. So what I'm saying is
How do you
like
even know that they had sex in the garden at all?
whenever they finally had Cain, however you want to put it, they
You mean after the
consummated.
fall? After the fall?
But who married them after the fall? Was there a priest around?
Well, the thing is like, yeah, I think that the inference here is that they're of one flesh, immediately of one flesh, and are immediately married. They are of one flesh.
Well, you're inferring, so I can infer what I want too. Like that's just
Well,
an
no,
like
I'm appealing to Christian church tradition. You're just making an inference based on I don't even know because you're saying there's two separate standards to hold. Standard one to
no.
hold is if yes,
I'm
and
not saying that, hold
there's
on. I'm not saying there's two standards.
okay.
God's overall standard is
Hmm.
that marriage and sex are linked. Like if you're having sex,
Hmm.
there'd better be a commitment there of marriage.
Yeah,
Like he doesn't
yeah, that's
expect you to
sex
be hopping
out.
around.
That's sex out of wedlock. I'm
Okay?
not sure how that makes you in wedlock.
However,
I'm
and
not sure how
again,
we
this
get to
isn't what
that.
I wanted to discuss, but however, like
Well, what
unbelievers,
do you want to discuss? You
I
keep
already
saying
told
that.
you.
Well, then discuss whatever it is that you're actually trying to discuss. So you just quit bringing that up. Just bring that topic right to the front. Let's just get right to it. So that you can't
Okay.
later say he wouldn't even discuss whatever the fuck this thing is that you want to discuss. Go ahead.
Okay, what I've been wanting to discuss this whole time is that
Hmm.
like men and women are made as complements to each other. They're supposed to be compatible together, and I feel like a lot of your rhetoric is meant to place like kind of a division there opposition, and that I feel like that's like in direct contrast to God's goal is that men and women should be complementary, should be supporting each other, that they aren't shouldn't be in competition or in any kind of like, you know, like there shouldn't be division between men and women. We should like appreciate each other for our differences, and we should, you know, respect that the complementary way that God made us.
Yeah.
Because it said in
Okay.
Genesis 2 that God saw that man should not be alone, and he created for him a helper. So that implies that God created women exactly as, you know, as he wanted her to be in order to best complement man. Now, granted, they fell, so that's going to change some things about his creation, right? So,
Okay.
but it also, they both fell. It wasn't just woman that fell and man remained perfect. Man and women fell.
Okay.
So, there, but still,
I'm
the
not.
idea is to
I'm
try.
literally not disputing any of this. I don't.
Okay,
I, yeah.
so the idea is they're supposed to try
Uh-huh.
to like in marriage to regain that
Well,
one
wait. So
flesh
wait. Why are
and
we back to marriage? I thought we weren't. You didn't want to talk about marriage. You wanted to talk about my rhetoric dividing men and women. Which thing do you want to talk about?
well, what I'm saying is that it seems like a lot of your rhetoric is to talk negatively about women. Like again, I understand that the way women behave in modern society
Hmm.
with, you know,
Uh-huh.
multiple sex partners and so on is negative. But what I'd also like to
So
discuss though is how
okay.
men like I feel
Go ahead.
like men have kind of established that standard. Like I feel like women follow men naturally, even though like it says our desire will be to lead.
This is
But
men's fault. Just you can just
no,
say it.
no,
You
no,
can
no,
just be like
no.
it's men's fault.
No, it's not all men's fault, but it's like,
It's mostly men's fault though.
well, hear me out. So God
Okay.
left men in charge. So
Hmm.
God's, because like we didn't fall until Adam ate the apple. It's like Eve ate the apple, but mankind didn't fall till Adam ate the apple because, you know, when God talks about sins being transferred, it's always the sins of the father. You don't hear the sins of the mother. So I'm not saying that women have no accountability because I know it's what you're going to accuse me of, because we definitely do. I'm accountable to not, you know, sin
Yeah. Men are
knowingly
just
and
mostly
deliberately.
responsible, right?
Well, hold on. So I'm
You,
accountable to not deliberately go out and sin. I'm accountable for my own actions. However, men were left in charge,
so they're
and
mostly responsible.
we've seen this kind of where men have kind of left out, you know,
Hmm.
responsibility. They've kind of shied away from their leadership role. And I
Hmm.
feel like they've definitely fallen into, well, I can just satisfy my flesh. So I can look at porn, I can just eat, I can make my life easier. And this has left a vacuum that women have stepped in and filled. And it's also this demand for pornography and things that women have stepped up to fulfill because
Oh, how kind
like
of them.
I can honestly say growing up, it's like I saw my dad giving attention to things like, you know, magazines and women on TV and then, you know,
Look,
multiple
look,
girlfriends.
you can't like filibuster the. You're gonna have to make the point, right? So I can respond to
So
it at some point. You have to make the
sure,
point.
sure. And so so we see all these men, you know, like creating this need and this vacuum of leadership, and we see women stepping into it. So I think, you know, men are going to have to lead women back out of this situation the same way they
Yeah.
got like led into it.
Yeah, they can't do that without authority, and so women won't enable men's authority. So they don't concede to the authority.
But is that how
The
authority
so
works? Like
yeah,
women
that's
have to
how it.
enable it?
Well, they have to submit to it. Yeah. So if willful women don't submit to authority, you can't ask men to lead them. That's absurd, right? It's like saying, well, I don't submit to the authority of the United States, but the United States needs to lead me. It makes no fucking sense. It's a contradiction in terms. So let's go back to my original example, as I knew exactly where this is going. It's a very common kind of feminist talking point. So we'll start with the initial example of the Xbox, right? I agree with you that men should have the authority to say, I'm buying the Xbox, shut your fucking mouth, and mind your own P's and Q's and do what you're told. Don't you think men should have that authority because they're the leaders, right?
Okay, but is that
The answer is no. You don't believe that. You believe
but
that he needs to tell you all about why he needs to buy the Xbox and placate all of your fucking needs, right? You
no.
actually are subverting his authority. That's what that is. So what has happened is women refuse to submit to the authority, and then they make all these terrible fucking decisions and then blame men for not leading them when they refuse to submit to authority.
But see, what I think you're missing is like men are fallen as well. And the problem
I'm
is
not
like
missing that.
women well, you've admitted that submission is something we do willingly and
It
something we
is.
do. So
It is something you
women,
do willingly. Do you want men to make you submit?
all right, yeah, but I'm not saying that. I said that you admitted that it's something that women do willingly, and I'm saying
Yeah.
if a man it's easier to follow a
Uh-huh.
leader who's
Who does
like,
whatever you want. Yeah, I know.
no, that's not
Hmm.
what I was going to say.
Okay.
Okay. It's easier to follow a leader that you trust to have your best interest,
Yeah,
not
but
somebody who
that's not
petulantly just goes, I don't
submission.
have to tell you, bitch,
Yeah,
shut the
that's not
fuck up.
submission. It's
Like,
not submission. Right? So you can't say you don't have the authority. You can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me why
that's
it
not what
is.
I
You
said.
can't tell me why it is that there's why is it actually wrong for him to say, I'm buying the Xbox, I'm giving you no justified reason because I'm the leader and you need to be quiet. Can you tell me what's wrong with that other than it makes you feel bad and you don't want to submit? What is it?
The problem with that is that it doesn't build any kind of trust in
Right,
the relationship, which is
right.
what facilitates the
So you
submission.
refuse to submit. Right. You're right. You
Because
just said it. Hang
it's
on. You just said
reasonable
it.
that you
You
need to
refuse.
establish trust.
Then don't
Like the reason
complain.
I
No, don't complain that men who you refuse to give authority to because you refuse to submit because you don't like the terms of submission and then blame them for not leading you. That's insane.
Well, the reason it's easy to submit to Christ is because it's easy to trust him because of, his who he is.
Yeah, because you can
It's
make
like,
up any standard of expectation you think he
but
has.
do you admit that men are fallen?
Yeah, well, what do you mean by fallen? Like,
Like men fell in the like they're not infallible. They aren't Christ
yeah, I've
exactly.
already told you
Okay,
50,000
so you admit
times.
that. So you admit that a man can lead a woman badly, right?
Uh huh.
Okay, so
Sure. What does
it's
this have to do with
reasonable.
anything?
So it's reasonable and logical for a woman to want a man to establish himself as a good leader and
Nope.
establish trust in the
Nope. That
relation
is no.
to
So,
establish trust in the relationship.
no. Okay, wait a
Okay,
second.
just hear me
Hang
out.
on,
Let me
hang on.
finish.
No, I'm disagreeing
You're
with your first
interrupting me
premise
in
because
mid-sentence, bro.
I'm disputing your first premise. No, it's
Okay,
incorrect.
but hold on.
Okay.
Establish trust in the
Hmm.
relationship to expect her to like give over that kind of like power and control.
Yeah, and what does that look like besides doing things that you want?
It doesn't have to look like that. That
Well,
would be
okay,
an immature.
explain
I
how it would
will.
look other than he's doing things you want him to do. Go ahead.
I will absolutely explain.
Okay.
Like I admit that an immature woman would might state something like that. Like, yeah, it needs to look like him buying me this and that. No. For me,
Hmm.
okay, it would need to look like him taking seriously his relationship with Christ,
Okay.
modeling himself after Christ, and
Oh.
spiritually leading the family. If my
Mhm.
husband like did those things, like I would have never have questioned anything he says
Okay.
ever.
So I just want to make sure that I got this right. What is unchristlike about buying the Xbox and telling you to fuck off and mind your own business? It's not your concern. What is wrong with that? Can you tell me what's wrong with that at all? Why is
Well,
it that you refuse to submit or that a woman would refuse to submit? Why does the man who's supposed to be the authority and the leader need to endlessly justify his decisions in leading to you, the not leader? Why do they need to do that again?
again, like if he's established a track record of showing himself to be like again Christ, like he has a good relationship with Christ. He prays, he
I
stays in
don't.
his word,
Okay,
he
yeah, he
goes to
prays, he
church.
stays in his work, he goes to church. You know he loves God, but he often tells you, shut the fuck up and mind your own business. I'm buying the Xbox, or I'm doing this
You
thing that you
don't, so
don't like.
you don't see how those things don't match up at all.
No, nope. I don't understand why it is.
See, I think
He, if
that's so
he, I
weird.
don't understand if he has the authority. You obey
That's
his.
so
Hang
weird to
on.
me
You
that you don't
obey.
see.
What does authority mean? Does
All right, I'm
authority
about to
mean
tell.
you
It
get
doesn't
it
mean
when I
telling
want you to
people to
have
shut
it?
the fuck up,
What?
Andrew.
Yes, it
That's not what
does.
it
It
means.
literally means if I tell you to shut up, you shut up. That's what authority means. Yes, it
No,
does.
see,
Literally.
that's the problem.
Oh my
It's
God. What do
like,
you think authority means? What first? Let's define our terms again. What does authority mean? What does it mean? What does it mean?
can I say what I want to say,
I
please?
need you to define the term authority so that we're not talking past each other.
Can I say what I want to say, please? I'm really tired of you forcing the conversation the way you want it to go. Can I say what I want to say?
You already have. I need you to define this word, please. Can you, so we're not talking
If a
past each
man
other?
is going to church and praying, I don't think he talks to people that way.
Okay, that's great. Can you tell me what you think authority means? What does it mean?
So that's how those two things are contradictory. And that's why that's what you're saying is ridiculous.
Yeah, what does authority mean? What does
If a man
authority
is
mean?
following Christ,
What
he's
does
going to tell his
authority
wife to
mean?
shut the fuck
What
up.
does authority mean? What does it
Do you
mean?
not see how that doesn't make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. I need to know what you think authority means.
It doesn't make perfect sense. You have to establish that that
Oh
makes
my God.
perfect sense first. I'm
Okay,
not going to
okay,
bypass that.
because he has the authority. That's why it makes
No,
sense.
he has the authority to just be an
Yeah.
asshole?
Yes, he does. That's what
No.
it, then what does authority mean, lady? What does it mean? I don't know, Andrew. I just use words. I don't know what they mean, Andrew. I have no idea. I can never define my terms. We could just endlessly talk past each other. The failure in communication, though, is yours, even though you specifically asked me to define these terms. So we're not
He's
talking past each
he's
other.
bearing fruit that illustrate that he's not meeting any of the things that I said to
Yeah,
establish
you.
trust.
Yeah, you. Your preferences, things you want. You. Can you tell me again what authority means? What does it
Yeah, it's
mean?
so wrong of me to want my husband to model Christ.
Yeah,
Like me.
yeah, what does authority mean? What does that mean?
What does submission mean?
Submission means to obey.
Willingly or by
Yes,
force?
willing. Yes, willingly. Yes, correct.
Okay,
Willingly.
I don't willingly want to obey somebody who verbally abuses me.
Exactly. Right. So now we've established exactly what I just said. I don't want to
So
give authority.
in order
Hang
for
on.
women
Stop.
to be led,
Shh.
they
My
have to
turn. My turn. My
concede to be
turn.
verbally abused.
My turn. Okay. I need to
This is
know.
your big
I
reveal.
need to know what authority means. I just told you what submission means. What does authority mean? What does it mean?
It means that you have like the ability to tell others what to do,
Uh-huh.
like as a like as a
Wait,
final say.
as a final say?
Yeah,
What?
you can people in authority can still be have discussions. They can
They
negotiate.
can. Yeah, they can. They don't need
Yes,
to because they have the authority, right?
they should
Yeah, no, why should they?
because because they're not infallible and they sometimes need to
Yeah, but
be
why do they
like
need to
shown how
consult?
they're not correct.
Why do they need to consult with you for that? What makes you somebody who can question the authority?
If I'm not the kind of person who can give good counsel, then I shouldn't be the person that
Even
anyone
if,
picks to
okay, hang
marry.
on. That's not for you to determine who can give good counsel. That's for the authority to determine, not you.
Are you aware that like the verbiage in Ephesians says they submit to one another, implying that the husband listens to the wife's
Oh,
counsel?
so wait, so are they equal or does the man have authority?
The man is the leader, but he doesn't mean that he completely disregards his wife in
Okay.
all ways.
Does he have authority or not?
See, why do you want to make everything black and white?
Oh my God. Why won't you just answer the fucking question, you insufferable brat? Just answer the question. Does he have authority or doesn't he?
He has authority, but that doesn't mean that he's supposed to use it in the way you're describing. Like that's
Okay.
incorrect use of it.
Why do you, the person without authority, get to determine that?
Because I'm not just without any authority.
Oh, okay. So we're equals? They're equal. You're
No.
equals? Well, okay.
We're
Well, then who has the authority here? It can't be both. One has the authority
that
or he doesn't have the authority because authority means I am. The one who tells, you're the one who obeys.
You seem to be contradicting earlier where you said a woman has every right to leave a man under certain circumstances,
Yes, that's
implying that he
correct.
can
Yep.
forfeit his authority, right?
Okay. Okay. If you're in a marriage with a man, okay, and man breaks God's laws, that no longer comports with reason. And if it doesn't comport with reason, which is would be a breaking of God's laws by moving you towards no longer following God's laws, okay, that would not comport with reason. And since that would not comport with reason, you would not have to obey those commands. However, a man with authority, anything he tells you to do external to that, you are supposed to obey. Can you tell me why you're not supposed to obey? If he doesn't want to hear your insufferable prattle, he doesn't want to hear your nonsense, he doesn't want to hear your bullshit, he just tells you, shut up, I don't need to justify myself. I don't need to do that. You're not in authority. You are not in authority here. I am. You and your job is to obey me. What's wrong with that? What is the problem here?
The point of servant leadership isn't just
Servant
to
leadership was coined in the year 1970 by a Protestant named Robert Greenleaf. Just some guy. Some guy just made that shit up
do
in the
you notice that you
70s.
interrupted me again?
Yeah, it was, you're using a made up term from the
It's
19, it
not a
came
made up
about.
term.
It's not a made up term. I'm
So
sorry.
do you disagree that Christ demonstrated servant leadership?
Yes, I disagree. Greenleaf servant leadership theory is a non traditional leadership style that focuses on the well being of others. This is completely anti biblical. You probably
So
don't
Christ
even know
didn't
where the
focus on
coin
the
came.
well-being of everyone else above himself?
That's not what servant leadership is. You need to read what it actually means. Would you like me to? I have it right here in front of me. I have the guy who made it
He
up.
washed the feet of his
Mhm.
disciples. Okay, he
Yeah.
died for people who were for all sinners.
Yeah. What about point two, sharing power?
He delegated.
Yeah. Did he share power?
I'm saying he delegated, and
Yeah. Did
yes,
he
like
share?
he
He
shared
shared
his
it?
Holy Spirit with his
Oh.
disciples and told them to go out and perform wonders, the same as he even said his church would do greater works
Mhm.
than him.
Okay.
So yes, he shared power through the Holy Spirit.
So you think men should share power with you?
I think that men should like consider the counsel of their wives. Yes.
Okay. So that's not what I asked you. I asked you if men should share power with you.
What do you mean share power?
Should your husband
Like
share power with
it
you?
depends on what's
Should
the
your husband
goal.
share power with you? Whatever his goal. So here's my stance. My stance is your husband's in authority. Okay. In a Christian marriage, your husband's the authority. You, the
Right.
submitter, you obey your husband, unless it does
Right.
not contort to reason, which would only be a breaking of the commandments of God. If he's not doing any of those, then your job's to fucking obey. That's it. That's my position. Your position is, well, Andrew, that's nice and all, but I want certain things a certain way. And since I want certain things a certain way, I'm not going to enable this guy over here to have the proper authority to lead and then complain incessantly that men aren't leading. Very strange position.
So the situation you gave was
Mhm.
set up in order to bring about this outcome because you're using profanity in the way that he's speaking to his wife,
So what?
which I said
Yeah, he can use
implies that he's
profanity.
not following Christ.
No, 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 no,
So,
no, no, no.
but see,
A man
do you
saying the
notice how
word,
you didn't use? Notice how you didn't use an example like, say he wants to buy his Xbox,
uh-huh.
and and he's just like, yeah, I just need time to myself, and I've been working hard, and I
No,
just
no,
think this
those
will
are
help me blow off steam.
justifications. Yeah, you're just asking for justifications. I'm telling you, he doesn't need to give you any.
But I'm saying that that's common in a marriage, though, that people
That's
just
nice that it's
communicate.
common. I'm saying he doesn't need to. He's in authority. You obey.
But that's see, but men being like, oh, I'm
But see,
communicating
but
with my.
see, but see, but
Hold
see,
on
but
and
see,
listen.
me. Why won't men lead? Why won't men lead? I don't
That's not what
understand
I
why
was
men won't
saying.
lead.
I was
Because
saying
you won't submit. You won't obey. You won't
men
behave.
men communicating in their marriages is not what causes women to not want to follow them, and it's not what's causing men and women to fail at their
Well, that's
marriages.
a totally different argument. Your argument was not that. Your argument was men need to lead women.
Yes.
Okay, great. How do they do that if you won't submit to their authority? Because anytime they exercise authority, you fucking complain. You complain incessantly and say, no, 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 not
But
like
see, you've
that.
turned
Not like, wait, not
you've
like
turned
that. Not like
you've turned
that.
you've turned my objection to being cursed at into me never submitting to anything he says. Notice that? Do you notice how you trickily did that? You've turned
Yeah.
me saying I don't
Okay.
want to be cursed
Okay,
at
great,
to,
great.
well, you must never do anything
Okay,
your husband
okay.
ever tells you to
Okay,
do.
great. So your husband looks at you and says, shut your mouth. I'm doing what I want. He doesn't curse, right? Since I know that your ears are very delicate and you think God's going to send you to hell for saying the word shit, even though they're swearing
Why
all through
can't
the
you ever give
Bible.
a scenario where he's not speaking to me disrespectfully?
Because I'm giving you this scenario specifically to test your logic to show you what obedience means.
No, you're doing the
He
same
looks at
thing you
you and
did
he
with the
says,
child
he looks at
molester.
you and he says, I want to buy it because I want to buy it. Shut your mouth. Shut up. Stop
My husband would
talking.
never speak to me that
And
way.
he says, go get in the car and wait until I'm ready to come out of here. He says that to you. Let's say he says all of that to you. Are you supposed to?
Is that how a good leader talks to people?
See what I mean? Who's in authority? Are you in authority or is he in authority? Which one? Can't be
So
both.
your point is you can act however you want and you don't need to establish any trust with your wife in order to facilitate submission. You just get to act however you want and it's a blanket pass to behave like an ass.
No,
That's
didn't
what
say
I'm
that at
hearing.
all. What I said
That's
specifically to you
Well, and I didn't say
is
I would
that
never obey my
somebody,
husband. I said there needs
okay,
to be
great,
trust.
great.
And
So
you
your
keep
husband says to
establishing
you,
scenarios which would
mm-hmm.
break trust.
Oh, okay. So
So
just to get this right,
as long as you're going
so your
to
husband can
continue
lead you. Your
to,
husband can lead you as long as it's the way you like him to lead you. Got it.
yes,
Perfect.
people submit to people they trust.
Got it.
That's how
Got it.
submission works.
Got it. So if you're going to
Yes.
annihilate the authority of
Well,
men,
so if men are
but
untrustworthy, it's going to be
mhm,
hard for women to submit to them.
right,
Yes.
right. So
That's
right,
why God holds men
men,
to a higher
yeah,
standard to be
right. So,
trustworthy.
got it. So just so we're clear, right? I was completely right, and what you're saying is this: you're saying, well, I'll definitely submit if this guy's doing this leadership thing the way that I like it. Do you realize that the second
I'm
that you
saying I will
do you
submit to
realize
someone
the
who has established
second?
trust with me.
Yeah, okay, so he establishes.
I will never always like all decisions my husband makes, but if he's established trust with
Hmm.
me, I will defer to him in a lot of things regardless of if I agree or not.
Yeah, okay.
But he has to establish
Hmm.
that track record of trust first because that's how submission works. Submission
Yeah.
is
Hmm.
voluntary. So
Yeah,
when
it
submission
is.
is
We're not.
voluntary,
All you're doing is prattling. You just prattle and prattle and
and you're
prattle.
not,
And
you're
no, I'm
talking in this
making
weird nasally
specific.
voice, like
I'm
just
talking in
making fun of
specific.
me.
You're talking like this with a vocal fry. Ah, let's not get
I
into that. Let's not get into how you
Okay.
talk, lady. Come on.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Okay.
so back to this. When you subvert authority, when you say you must lead how I desire based on my preferences, you're subverting authority. So you can't say, on the one hand, I want men to lead, and then get upset at the way they do. Otherwise, that's not submission. That's you thinking you're the leader. That's what submission to authority means. And so if women subvert that, and all modern women seem to subvert that because they want leadership based only along the preferences that they have. I want you to lead, but only in a way that I want it to, that I want to be led. That's signaling I'm the leader.
Are men responsible for how they lead?
Sure.
So like when they face God
Hmm.
and he reviews, how they stewarded what they were given. If a man is constantly telling his wife to shut the fuck up and go back to the car,
Hmm.
do you think that's going to
Oh, I was
reflect
sure.
how?
I'll tell you what, I sure wish more men would. I really do. I wish.
I didn't
In
ask what
fact,
you
I would
wished. I
say,
asked how God
yeah.
would respond. Like,
I hope that that when half of these insufferable bitches have to face the Lord, that He looks down at their husband and He's like, "Remember that time, Chuck, that you told that insufferable brat to go wait in the car because she was making a scene?" And He's like, "Yeah." God's like, "Good job, buddy. Good job. She did. She
here
needed
it
to
is
go wait
again,
in that
the
car."
division.
Well, it's not division. I'm literally you've been making my point for me nonstop. So just so you understand, here's the point you're making. Men can lead as long as they lead how I want them to. So I'm the leader.
And I'm making the
So I'm
point
the
that
leader. You're the leader.
I'm making the point that it's very easy for women to submit to a man who's established
Who does whatever
trust.
they want? Sure. Yeah, I'm sure it
No,
is. Yeah,
who's
yes.
established trust with them.
Whatever that means. I don't
There's
even know
been,
what that means.
you could keep repeating that, but there's been hundreds of times in my marriage, my husband has wanted to do something I didn't want him to do, and I went along with it because
Yeah,
I'm
that's
being
great. You
obedient
know,
to God.
most women seem to submit just fine to complete strangers being over them in the middle of the night. So they seem to submit to
What
that fine. They seem to
what does
submit
that have to do with what I just said?
to complete strangers bending them over, and yet for
What
some
does
reason
that
with their
have to do
husband,
with
I'm
me
telling
saying
you,
I've submitted to my husband?
gonna tell you, it's really easy how many of them are willing to submit to complete strangers in the middle of the night.
What
But
does that have
somehow
to
I'm
do?
trying, stop talking, ladies, so I can make my point. So it's really funny to me that they'll submit to him in the middle of the night. But then when it comes to their own husband, he needs to lead in a certain way. He needs to lead in a way that I feel is appropriate. So you subvert all the authority that you possibly can and then get upset that he's
So you
not
don't think there's
leading.
anything men are doing that's contributing to the status right now of society? You think
No,
it's just all
of
women?
course. No, there's tons of degenerate scumbag men. Never said anything
And
different. I debate with them constantly. Never
so
seen you
then
debate
why do
with
you
any of
keep
them. Literally never seen you debate with any of the degens ever, not even once. I just see you kiss their ass all day. But
what?
okay. Yeah, that's all
What
I ever
DJ?
see.
Can I have an example?
Yeah. So half of these kind of like reform prostitutes that are up in your threads all the time, right? And you're all kissing each other's asses in the threads. Oh, you're right. Look at this scripture. And the other one goes, yeah, I'll virtue signal for you if you virtue signal for me. Oh, can you believe how terrible these divisive men over here are? Oh, they're so awful. Oh yeah, they're not even following Jeremiah 6. It's all virtue signaling bullshit. All of it's virtue signaling. It's all designed for look at me, look how pious I am, look how great I am, look how fantastic I am. Pure virtue signal. And so what happens here? This message that you're giving is a degenerate message. The second you say that men must subvert to women's expectations of leadership, you're assuming leadership. It's
Actually,
anti-Christian.
that's not what I said. I
It
said
is
that
what
they
you're
need
saying.
to. I said they needed to model Christ, and if I see them modeling Christ, I would trust them.
Yeah, but we have to use your interpretation of what that means, not theirs. That's the
I
problem.
mean, we all have the Bible to show us what that
No,
means.
well, no. The thing is that that's open for interpretation, which is why when you use exegesis, you have different denominations of Protestants all over the place. There's no set standard. That's why women aren't supposed to be clergy. Only men are supposed to be clergy. The reason men are only supposed to be clergy is because we're supposed to follow their example for what Christ is supposed to do, not women's.
I never
Not you.
said women should be clergy
Right. But why? Why shouldn't they?
because that's not a model of the way that Christ heads the church,
Right.
not the other way around.
Right.
And if
Because
men are a
men,
type of Christ,
right.
then
Right.
only men can head the church.
So their interpretation of Christ is the one you should follow, right? Not yours. Is that correct?
That's not to say that men can't have a wrong interpretation. Like
Sure,
wolves
they can.
exist.
Yeah, sure they can. That's why we have a church, right? We have a church and we have church authority and we have bishops and we have all of these things have
We
been
also
worked
have a
out for
Holy
thousands.
Spirit.
They've all been worked out for thousands of years, right? So we know how to adhere to
Yes.
authority properly. Since we know how
And
to adhere,
we
since
also
we
have a
know
Holy
how to
Spirit.
adhere to authority, yeah, but here's the problem with that standard. When you use the standard of the Holy Spirit, you run into the same problem the last chick did. If you're exegeting a text and so is your best friend Betty, and your best friend says, I interpret it to mean this, and you say, I interpret it to mean that, which one of you is right? And how do you make that determination?
You compare the interpretation to Scripture.
Okay, you just did that. That's how you came up with the interpretation to begin with.
Then you pray about it.
You pray about it and you both still end up with different answers.
I don't believe that would happen.
Okay, but it happens nonstop, or you wouldn't have different denominations, right?
Different denominations are what help spread the gospel, kind of like the Tower of Babel.
No, what helped spread the gospel was the apostles of Jesus Christ who took it to all four corners of the earth. Protestantism is a new invention. It's only a few hundred years old. There was only ever one church before that. There was only one schism before that between Roman Catholics and the Orthodox, and that was it. Protestantism
Yeah,
is
I
a
know that's what
new
you guys
invention.
say,
It is true.
but
When do you think Protestantism began? When do you think it began?
It began with Martin Luther,
And
but I
how
mean,
many years ago
obvious,
was that?
but the church at Acts wasn't Roman Catholic and it wasn't Orthodox. The
Yes,
church
it
at
was
Acts was just in,
Orthodox.
it was random people meeting in homes. Nobody was wearing robes. Nobody was wearing
That
big,
is
huge hats
first
with
of all, that is
crosses.
totally incorrect. The entire liturgical design was based along the lines of the Jewish liturgy. Did you know that? That's why all of those ceremonies are that way in the Orthodox Church.
Those ceremonies have a lot of pagan stuff in them.
No, this was the way that Jews originally worshipped. And so most of it was borrowed from Judaism for the
Christians were
divine
worshiping in
liturgy.
houses underground. They didn't have people
Ah,
wearing big hats and carrying staffs.
yes, they had, when you're talking about like modern fabrics and things like this, first of all, yes, they did. Do you think that the Jews of the time,
Not
do
in
you
Acts, they
think
didn't.
that
They
the
were wearing.
Jews of the time, stop. Do you think that the Jews of the time did not have
I can't believe you
robes,
believe this.
did not have robes, did not have all of these things? Do you think that when Paul was making instructions to Timothy, that they did not have proper, they were forming proper church attire, all of this, because they took most of the worship portion from the divine liturgy of the Jews of the time? No, it's not a matter of belief. It's a matter of historic fact. Historic
It's
fact.
a matter of historic fact that they were meeting in houses underground to try to avoid
In
Jewish
some, yeah,
leadership. So they were not calling attention to themselves with fancy outfits.
in some places, they took it to all four corners of the earth. It was done differently in every place. Okay, but yes, it was the Orthodox Church that put the Bible together. Like, what are you talking about? The Orthodox Church put it together. The Bible you read, my church put that together, not yours, because your church didn't even exist. It wasn't even there. Did not exist. So the thing is like we know what the authority looks like. We know what authority looks like in the church. It's very clear. Men are allowed to be clergy. Women not allowed to be clergy.
Right.
And the reason
I agree
is
with that.
because women aren't to have authority over men. And so what you're doing,
Correct.
the second you make the claim, if he's Christ-like enough for me, you're usurping authority. It's not through your prism from which you're supposed to know what is Christ-like, but through your husband's, not you.
So for men to lead effectively, they need women to submit perfectly.
They
But
just need them to submit,
but it's unfair
period.
for women ask for men to lead perfectly in order to submit. Do you see, like, that's kind of a double standard?
Yeah, but
It's like two
that's
people
because
are saying the same thing.
you smuggled in the word perfectly,
Well, that's what I'm
which is
saying is,
it's
and
meaningless. It's
but
meaningless
that's
word.
what you're accusing me of. You're saying that I'm saying, well, men have to lead perfectly before I'll submit to them, but yet
You
you're
are
saying I
saying
have to submit perfectly for
no,
you to lead
women,
effectively.
men aren't asking for perfect submission. They're just asking for regular old
Oh,
fashioned
men
submission.
aren't?
You
So
obey.
you
Yeah,
speak for
you
all
just
of
obey.
them?
Yes. Speak for all men.
Okay.
All
Okay.
men. They're asking, well, so for the purpose of the problem, yes, I'm speaking for all men. So the problem you claim is that men don't lead. It's like, okay, but you won't give them the authority by submission. So why should they lead you anywhere?
See, that's the problem though.
We should
Is
force
like
you into
we're, we
submission.
have we have we have imperfect women marrying imperfect men, and both of them are like, well, once you reach like this certain standard, then I'll do what I'm supposed to
Yeah,
do.
but
When
wait.
when both need to do what they're supposed to do
Yeah, that's right.
from the gate, and that means that, like,
Let's start with
you're not helping the process of sanctification of your wife by cursing at her. That's not going to get her to submission any faster, just like she's not helping you by questioning everything you do. That's why it's a process of
okay, great.
sanctification.
Yeah, we'll take cursing out of it. He just tells you to shut your mouth. Now he hasn't
Yeah, that's
cursed.
also not helping the sanctification process of the wife. That's
Oh,
creating
okay.
division. That's deliberately
Yeah.
creating,
Is him telling you
like,
what to do in a forceful way at all
in
times?
the
Is it
situation where it
always?
says to honor thy
Yeah.
father and mother, but it also
Mm-hmm.
tells the father not to provoke the child.
Yeah.
It's the same principle. When you're a leader, you can responsibly not
Mm-hmm.
provoke your, submitters into, deliberate anger
So,
and
okay,
embarrassment.
got it. So tell me, whose leadership standard should we follow? Yours or
Again,
the?
it's in the Bible. It
Yeah,
says
stop.
children
Let me
honor your
ask the
father and
question.
mother,
Let me
but
ask the
fathers don't
question.
provoke your
Yeah,
child.
great. I never disputed that. Can you answer my question now? My question
That's a
is,
biblical standard
yeah,
I
I
just
know
gave you.
for children and fathers, great. I'm sorry. Are you marrying your
So
father?
men should provoke their wives to make them feel
It's
embarrassed
not a
and less
pro.
than?
It's not a provocation.
It is a provocation. You
No,
know it. You've been doing it this whole
that's
time.
totally
As a matter
perspective.
of fact, I
You're
would say
just
you're
screeching.
very
You're
skilled at
literally
provocation.
screeching,
That's
just
basically
screaming.
your MO.
You just spurging out doesn't help the conversation. So really quickly, just so that you understand, right? Again, because it's just circular now, right? You'll obey as long as you think the man's worth obeying. Great, got it. Okay,
That's not
so
what I said. I said I've obeyed my husband lots of times when I've disagreed with him, but he's
yeah,
established trust with me.
yeah, great. That's fantastic, right? So because he's already demonstrated to you by whatever standard metrics that you want that okay, that's okay then. You'll let some of that slide. Fantastic. But when you're talking about, and even you, we're taking you off the table, right? We're just going to talk about Susie now. So Susie says, okay, listen, I really need you to model yourself after Christ in the way I think you should, and then I'll obey. Okay, great. Well, now you've just destroyed the authority of men. So I don't know what
No,
to tell you. I don't know how it is that you expect men to lead you if their standards are going to be different than yours. Do you realize that men and women are not interchangeable widgets, and that men are not expected to deal and have to put up with vexing and
I've never
nagging and
denied that it's hard to emulate Christ, and it
yeah,
is.
yeah. Well, okay. Can we talk about vexing wives real quick? Can we talk about that and how
I feel like you've been talking about that this whole time.
yeah, no,
Like,
haven't even
because
got to
according to
vexing.
you, it's like there's no other kind.
Yeah, it's
So
it's just passive aggressive behavior from women where they're like, okay, I'll be nice, but I'm really going to say a bunch of passive aggressive bullshit, and I'm really going to nag with undertones, and I'm really going to expect endless justifications from you. That's all vexing. The woman's job is to bring peace in the house. That's her job, and to obey. Bring peace, obey. Ready? Bring peace, obey. That's her job.
I
It's not
agree
to
that women
endless.
should bring
It's
peace
not
to
to
their husband.
endlessly and obey. Obey. What about the obey part?
I agree that women should obey their husbands.
Uh-huh.
I agree with that. I've said
Great.
that already.
Great. Well, they
But
don't.
I think the husband's responsibility is to act as much like Christ as is humanly possible. And it's understandable that a woman is going to struggle with submission if the man is not modeling that, which the situations you
Oh, yeah,
described
no, I get
are
it. They're
not.
just so women are perfectly emulating Christ, and it's just
I
these
didn't say
men.
women are perfectly emulating Christ. I
Right. Well,
said women are
who's
going to struggle to obey, which means
yeah,
they will be sinning. When I
yes,
disobey my
yep.
husband, I'm sinning. I
You're
admit that.
sinning. Okay,
If I
so
disobey my husband, yeah.
so whose standard of Christ should you follow? Yours or your husband's?
We both have the same standard.
Yeah,
We,
but
there's
if
the
you didn't, yeah, but if you didn't though, but if you
Christ is
didn't,
not some ambiguous being in the ether that we just all make up. He
well,
actually is a real person and the
for
standard is written
Protestants,
so that we can see it.
yeah, you can see it, but that doesn't mean you can't have different interpretations of it. And
We don't have
Protestants
different
have,
interpretations of it.
I'm not,
That's
oh my God, how would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast this morning?
you're doing the sociopath test on me.
I mean, honestly, how would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast this morning?
I would feel tired and hungry.
Okay, great. So since we've just established that you can follow a hypothetical, when I say things like, okay, whose standard should X follow? And I say you, I don't actually mean you, like not you. I'm just saying it's like a euphemism, right? I'm just saying you. So if you and your husband did have a disagreement, if you were to not agree on the standard of what Christ is saying, whose standard should you follow?
We need to sit down and read the Bible together
Yeah, you read it. You
and
read it
figure it out.
together. Yeah, you read it together, and you have a completely different take than his. Whose standard do you
We can
follow?
we can go to our pastor and ask him for advice.
Oh, so your pastor's the ultimate authority?
I didn't say he's the ultimate authority, but he can help us
Yeah.
resolve a dispute
Your
if
husband
we think that there's
disagrees.
two different.
Your husband disagrees with the pastor.
Mm, That would mean he should probably like self-examine himself or reflect.
Well, I mean,
It's kind of
okay,
strange.
got it. So there's no possible way that your husband could be right and the pastor could be wrong, right?
It's possible, but I think it would if two people are sitting there reading the same thing and they're gathering the same
Mhm.
thing from it and you're the one person against it, it would be a good time to self-examine for possible like, am I doing this for my own, because like I'm trying to find something that benefits
Yeah,
myself.
he
Am I doing
disagrees.
this?
He disagrees with your interpretation. He disagrees with the pastor's interpretation. He disagrees with everybody's interpretation. In fact, he thinks his is correct. The Holy Spirit, he tells you, has visited him and has told him that this is the correct interpretation. Are you going to follow him?
That doesn't preclude there from being a correct interpretation.
Okay, well, how would you make the determination of which is the correct determination?
Again, I would seek counsel from other people.
Yeah, how do you know that they're giving you the correct one?
Well, theoretically, Andrew, yours could be wrong too. Like nobody could, like, by this standard, nobody can ever know anything about the
No,
Bible. We
that's
might as
not
well throw it
true.
all out.
That's not true because you have the self-reference of the church, right? Church history.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I said to
going
go to the
back,
pastor,
going back
and
to
you
the
said he's not good
apostles. No, no,
enough.
no. That's not the church. That's some guy. Protestant churches are not the church.
So
The
this is
church.
just a big advertisement for the Orthodox Church. I disagree that the Orthodox Church is a direct representation of the Apostolic Church. I disagree. I think they're separated by several hundred years, and I think that that's not what I want to argue about.
Oh, okay. Well, how many years is Martin Luther separated from it?
I don't follow Martin Luther.
Oh, I'm sorry. You follow Catholicism?
I don't follow a denomination. I consider myself non-denominational.
Yeah, that's not
There's
even
lots of things with Martin.
that's a literal heresy. You're just like, okay, well, I literally just follow whatever I think Christianity is.
No, I just
That's like
literally follow Jesus and his word. Like I accepted that
yeah.
Christ died for my sins on the
Uh-huh.
cross. I accept that I'm a sinner. I accept that he
Mhm,
resurrected on the third day.
mhm.
And he gives me his Holy Spirit, which he promised would teach me all things. So
Okay,
I
so
trust him to do that.
you're right. You're right. So if your husband has a different interpretation, you're right because the Holy Spirit is teaching you all things, right?
No,
No?
because
Okay. Well, I'm super confused then.
I'm a flawed human being, and we're both in the process of sanctification.
So do you
Again,
yield to your husband's authority
you
or
keep
not?
bringing this is you again bringing godly ideals down into the world and then showing how of course they're going to contradict because this is a process of sanctification. Everyone goes through the process of sanctification.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that
Some a little quicker than others.
I didn't realize that God logic could contradict because I thought we established already it can't.
I said God's logic and what he prefers often contradicts with what actually happens
That's
because
not
we
even
live in a fall.
possible.
That's what being in a
That's
fallen
literally
world
not
is
possible. No, it's
is
not.
being in a
Contradictions
place
can't
that
exist. They can't
you're
exist.
that's the whole point of the fall is like
Is
God
that
had
contradictions
a
can exist because we
design.
fell?
Hear me out.
I'm
we
hearing you out.
fell
Mhm.
we fell, and
Yeah.
therefore a lot of things that occur are contradictory to what God wants or prefers, contradictory to like what he would want us to do. And so the
Okay.
fact that we are fallen means that we are not yet made glorified. So
Mhm.
therefore, we're going to have errors.
Okay.
We're
So
going to have lenses through which we
yeah.
filter
Okay. I
information
can't. I
that are going to be
literally.
self-serving.
I just can't
They're going
take
to
the
be
prattle anymore.
self-serving.
So let's just finish this with something really basic, right? Can you just tell
Sure.
me what men can do for you today? What can men do for to kiss the asses of all women to make sure that they'll follow our leadership? What can we do? Just tell us the prescription.
Repent and follow Jesus Christ.
Okay. And then if men repent and follow Jesus Christ, women are going to obey them, right?
I can't promise that all women are going to do the right thing, but they should.
Most of them going to do it? What about half of them?
If the women also repent and follow Jesus, then they'll want to find godly husbands, and they want, like, I'm going to be honest, I want to submit to a godly man. It's just
Hmm.
I obviously don't want like somebody who's just going to yell in my face to shut up.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
I
I
know.
would love, like, I would
Yeah, I know.
love to
You
to be able to
so
submit.
So
to a
what
godly
are
man all the time.
there's tons and tons and tons and oodles and boodles and hundreds of thousands of Christians right now who are single, can't find a decent woman, who are men, right? They refuse to submit. You're saying that they just need to Christian harder
I'm saying that I see lots of women saying that they would love to submit to a godly
to,
man and they
yeah,
can't find one.
yeah. What's really funny though, right, is this whole godly aspect that you're talking about. You're saying that again, the men just need to be more Christian, and then those women, then they will submit, right?
I think both have work to do. Obviously, both people are flawed.
Okay, so what
And I'm
can
saying both of them could
but
do
you
things
said
to make it
men.
easier for the other.
Okay, but you said
But
men
instead,
need to lead.
instead,
Men need
you've
to
got
lead women.
people making it harder for the other. Like honestly, you create
Hmm.
division rather
Good.
than bring unity.
I'm glad I have division from your stupid ass ideas. All you've done is contradict yourself all night. I am proud to stand in opposition to your absolute retardation. I am like literally proud of that. If I'm bringing division from people like you, then I know that I'm on the right path, because there is literally nothing you have said tonight which is in any way coherent, makes any sort of sense whatsoever, and has been nothing but infuriating babble, refusal to clarify, and a refusal to take positions, contradicting your own positions. It's been a nightmare. Just to get through a conversation with you has been a nightmare. So yes, I'm glad. Good. I'm glad that I come and I'm bringing division. I'm glad I'm bringing division. That's like the best thing I could do if if it's with people who have these kind of silly ass ideas that men need to lead by just being more Christian, and then women are going to follow. That's just so
And women need
absurd.
to be more Christian too. I
Great.
said that.
Yeah. Okay. So how are we going to make that happen?
We
How are you going to make
continue to
them?
spread the we continue to spread the gospel. We talk about the
Mm,
Bible. We help people with biblical literacy, which is mainly what I gear my account towards,
I'm
is
sure.
biblical
Yeah.
literacy.
Yeah. Well, okay. So starting with this, you're going to go spread the good word. Great. Great. Go spread the word everywhere that you can possibly spread
I
it.
mean, yeah, for people to become
Hmm.
more Christ-like, they need to know Christ. I mean, we can't
Sure.
ask unbelievers to become Christ-like,
Sure,
right?
and you're going to tell them that their husbands need to be super nice to them, and that you can
No.
submit to their authority. You can submit to their authority if they really deserve it.
No, I would tell them to choose a husband carefully who already
Hmm.
has himself submitted to Christ, and it'll be easier to submit to your husband if you meet one that's already like put Christ in his life. And
Yeah, like,
I think before people get
do you
married,
realize how many men that
I
is
think
right
that's
this
what people are
second?
missing.
Do you know how many men that is right this second? And so these men have these standards though. They're like, well, I'm a Christian, but I don't want to marry a chick with a really high body count. Do you know how many
They're
women that?
Christian, but like are they following a bunch of girls on Instagram who are half naked? Are they watching porn? Are they, are they sleeping around? Are they clubbing? Are
Well,
they
wait,
drinking?
wait. Let us. I'm just going to
And the
assume.
same thing with women. I hold women to the same
I'm
standard.
just going to assume that no, the men who are trying to settle down and are Christians are generally speaking not doing these things. Do they peep at
Well,
porn
I would hope
occasionally?
not, but I
Possibly.
bet that's probably not the case.
Well, I bet it is the case. So the thing is like from what I've seen from these various men, and thousands of them that I've talked to, along with thousands of women that I talk to, is that women always think that they're perfect angels and that men are fucking bastards. And that's like, okay, that's fair enough. But when we dive into it, these men, they have really, really low standards in comparison to the standards that women have. Really low. Let me give you an example of this. The men are saying things like, I just want a wife who hasn't slept with 10 plus men. Do you know how many women that rules out? Do you have any idea how many women that actually rules out immediately?
It's probably a lot.
Yeah, a lot. They say, I don't want a woman who has trashy tattoos. Do you know so when you start taking the criteria for what you would consider to be a decent wife, right? No tattoos, no addictions, right? And doesn't have a high body count. Do you know that it narrows down the field to about 3% of available women? About 3%. And you can find this figure from a book by a man named Aaron Clary, who's a statistician. And he ran these numbers multiple times. And he
So
was
if a
not looking,
woman
hang on. Stop. Let me finish. He's a statistician, ran these numbers many, many times, tortured them, in fact, to show how few women are actually available in the pool to men who fit even a modicum criteria for what you would think as a man would be a fairly acceptable wife for your children.
I agree. And I think that's a sad statement on where our society is at.
Yeah.
However, I would ask, do you think it's easy for a woman to find a man who isn't addicted to porn or who doesn't have an extensive porn history? Okay. Men who like even maybe even go to church or are Christian, because I
Mm-hmm.
would think I've seen a lot of like atheist trend out there, or men who are Christian who don't actually read the Bible or attend any
Men go
kind
to
of
church.
church.
Men go to church far more than women. The trend's not even close. It's not even in the same universe. Men are going to
But I'm just
churches
saying,
far more than
I
women. Men are
I'm
participating
saying,
in, hang on, clerical activities far more than women. Men are doing all of those things far more than women. It's not even in the same universe.
well, clerical activities. You
Yeah,
mean
I'm
church
sorry.
leadership?
I'm sorry. Church activities. I didn't mean clerical. Church
Oh, okay.
activities.
But I'm saying that it's hard, like for as much as, and that might be a man who's turned his life around, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have an extensive porn history, which again has
Yeah,
affected his,
yeah, who cares? If this guy sat
well,
in his
it's
room
not
and
who cares. If well, then
jerked
I
off
could
for
say
20
who cares
years.
about a woman's body count?
Yeah, well,
Like,
okay, so
who cares?
one of those things is something that men care about. The other one is not a thing that women select and have preferences for. We know this
That's not
because
necessarily
it's
true.
necessarily true, in fact, because we have all of the data for it. So we know from polling, these questions are asked more than almost any other question within dating. So what these various dating websites did is they started doing these internal polls, and these internal polls asked about these preferences time and time and time again. And what we found was that the preferences of women was that they really
Was
didn't
there a
care.
question? Do you care if a man has an extensive porn history?
Yeah, porn was included, sexual partners was included, vice was included, all sorts of things were included. And this makes sense why they included all of those, because they're trying to match the right people with the right people. So they're doing extensive internal data. And we were able to extrapolate a lot from that from various dating websites. And this is what we found, that women seem to not have much of a preference for body count. Men really care about it. In fact, some women were responding by saying that if a man was in his 30s and was a virgin, that they considered that to be a red flag because why didn't other women have sex with him?
Okay, but that's using worldly logic though. That's not using a
That's just
biblical
used, it's
logic.
using woman logic.
I mean, because I would disagree with women who are putting
That's
that as
nice that you would
their,
disagree with it, but you're not giving us
because
prescriptions here. Christian harder is not a prescription to there's only
but
3%
see,
of
that's the
women
point, is these
available to
women
Christian
are,
hard for.
but I was just about to make that point, that the reason these women are having the wrong things that they're looking for is because they're not looking at it from a biblical worldview.
Okay, that's
And
great. How are you going
that's
to
the
get?
point.
Yeah, so
Is
you will be the one who makes them look at it from a biblical worldview, I'm sure.
Well, I
And
mean,
in
you
the
don't get anyone to
mm-mm.
look at it from a biblical worldview without talking about Jesus. So I'm
Sure.
saying,
So
like,
no,
we talk about Jesus, which
I
is
think
what I do.
I think it's great that you're going to convert women to these modern women to your version of Christianity, whatever that is. I'm still
It's
not
not
even
my
sure.
version
It
of
is your version. It
Christianity.
is your version, yes, for sure.
Andrew, I've been married 10
Definitely
years.
not my version.
Andrew, I've been married 10 years,
Uh-huh.
okay? I've only been a
Great.
Christian for 3 years, but I've been studying intensively. I mean, like every day, the Bible. I do at least an hour
Well, it's insane
of
that you
Bible
can't ask.
study.
It's insane you can't answer basic questions that are asked of you. But okay.
What are you talking about? I've answered every question you've asked me. I've
No,
had to pause to
you need to
think.
listen. You need to go back and listen to this. How many times you contradicted your own position? It's been an insane amount.
But I also explained why that happened, was because I was trying to explain to you that God doesn't prefer divorce. And the reason I know that is because I've studied the Bible extensively. And then you're like, yeah, but there's exceptions. And I'm like, yes, but I'm trying to get across the point that we shouldn't be divorcing. Like he doesn't want us to.
Until
I
you got to the point
understand.
where you said that they should under X circumstances after I convinced you of that. And I am glad I was able to convince you of that and you won't have
Well,
such a
it's
bad position. But my point is is that even though I was able to convince you to change the position, I'm really happy that that happened. Ultimately, it's not even for you to correct or teach men. It's not even for you to do that. That is not even your place. Your place is to obey your husband. That's your place. Your place is not to go out and correct men. Your place is not to be out there correcting, what men are doing or not doing, or that's not your place. Doesn't even your version of Christianity say that?
My version of Christianity, quote unquote,
Hmm.
from what I've read in the Bible, women are not to lead churches.
Hmm. Well,
Okay,
hang on,
women are
hang on.
not
What's
to,
the church? What's the church?
like, when the body gathers to study the word together, women are not to lead a body of believers.
Yeah, are
Like,
we
in
here? Wait, are we here studying that word right this second?
no,
Oh
we're having a
no.
debate.
Wait. I'm sorry. I'm super confused. Is a debate
So are you?
over the? Hang
So
on. Is a
wait, you
debate
hold the
over the?
position
Stop.
that
Stop.
women
Stop.
can't spread the gospel?
Nope. That's not what I said. I asked you if it's appropriate if men have disagreements with you on what the Bible says and means for you to correct them.
If they're wrong,
Yeah. Why is that for you to do?
because anyone who's in error should be corrected, especially in public if they're making a public declaration about the Bible that's wrong. Like,
Okay.
it's better that they hear the right someone hears the right thing, even if it's from a woman rather than a man. Like, for example, like, plenty of times there's been atheists out there telling, oh, God's endorsed slavery. And I've, like, obviously corrected that misrepresentation and conflation of uh, indentured servitude and chattel slavery, and, like, had the argument. Like, that's part of what I do. And again, that's better than nobody doing it or someone else doing it incorrectly or less effectively.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why you think that you do it correctly, other than you just think you do.
I don't know. It's just my calling.
Right. It's just because you think you do. But anytime we get to the kind of crux of these different various things, like submission, for instance, and obeying, right? You refused for almost 15 minutes to just define it, the simple word authority and what you thought it meant. You like purposely and obtusely refused to do that because you're so prideful that you were terrified that if you did, it would lead to some like logical gotcha that you just that's how prideful you are. Oh, he's going to get me. He's going to get me with that logic stuff. So you literally refuse for 15 minutes to define a word. Like I don't know why you think that you should be out here with any authority over anybody ever, especially when it comes to obeyance and obeying and submission. Your
What
position here
authority
doesn't
do I
even make
have by being on
sense.
Twitter?
No, you're saying that your job is to correct men,
No, I'm saying my job is to correct anyone who's incorrect about scripture.
which would include men necessarily, correct?
Yes, if
Yeah,
it's
and
men that, yeah.
yeah. So this is the thing,
But
right? It's
women aren't to
like
submit to all men. They're said to submit to their
I
husbands.
didn't say that they needed to submit to all men. They're not to correct men.
So then why would a woman be unable to correct a man
Okay, do you want to read
if he's
Timothy?
wrong?
Let's read some Timothy, shall we?
You're gonna 1 Timothy 2:12 me?
Yeah, well, okay. Um, yes. What does it say?
So 1 Timothy 2:12 is about women learning before teaching. Like, women are not to usurp authority like, and teach. They're supposed to learn quietly, because
I
women in that time were
permit,
never educated. They didn't know
yeah,
how to
yeah,
behave
I
in
permit
a
no woman to teach or to have authority over a man. She's to keep silent. What does that mean?
that's in a church setting.
Yeah, who's the church?
It's in a church setting, not
Yeah, but
just
what does
in
that
the
mean? Yeah, what does that
Twitter
mean?
is the
Who's the
town
church?
square.
Yeah, so I
Twitter
don't
is a
understand.
town square.
What? Who's the church? Aren't the people according to you the church?
Okay, Andrew,
Uh-huh.
if God never intended for women to speak about godly matters, then he wouldn't have appointed Deborah as a judge. He wouldn't have had
I'm
Huldah as a
sorry,
prophetess.
I'm sorry, Deborah as a judge was not part of any clergy at all. What are you
I didn't say it
talking
was a
about?
clergy. I'm not a clergy
Yeah, what did
member.
a judge do? Well, do
I'm
you
an
know
apologist.
what did a judge do?
A judge, it's right there in the title. They would judge like matters of law and things to do with like you would
Oh,
bring matters
oh,
of like,
yeah.
did this break God's law?
hmm
Did this violate God's standard?
Yeah,
They
and
would bring matters before her.
Did Deborah exist before or after Timothy?
I'm not done.
Yeah, did Deborah exist
So
before or after Timothy?
I'm sorry, did all of morality change? Like,
No, it didn't
okay
change.
then. So it doesn't so Jesus still existed when Deborah was established as a judge by
Yeah,
Jesus.
Jesus brought clarity. He gave us two new commandments, and his apostles told us exactly how to run his
Yeah, to
church.
love your neighbor and love your God. He
Yeah,
didn't say,
two new commandments, and his apostles were instructed to form his church. And that's exactly what they did. And Timothy is being instructed on exactly how to do that.
yeah, he says don't let women be in charge of like the church gathering, which I agree, but
No, that's not
he
what he
also
says.
pray
That's not what he says.
in those same parts he praises Timothy's grandmother and mother for teaching him well. How are they supposed to teach him if they're never to speak or take any authority?
No, no, no.
Okay,
Authority. Oh,
Anna was the
no.
prophetess that was present whenever Jesus was dedicated, and she went and told the whole town the Messiah was here. Was she taking authority? Okay, the woman at the
No, that,
well
what are you
was
talking
commissioned by
about?
Jesus to be the first evangelist to Samaria to
Oh,
tell the whole
no.
town that the Messiah had come. Was she taking authority?
She didn't take
Mary.
authority over
Mary was
men.
commissioned by Jesus to go announce the resurrection to the disciples. Was she stealing
hmm
their authority by telling them
No,
something?
none of those are authoritative positions over men, you dunce.
And yeah, and that's
Which
my
ones of those are
point. Is
authoritative
me
positions
sitting
over
here
men?
talking to you, taking authority over you, or am I just disagreeing with you in a general
No,
capacity
no, I'm not
because you
talking about
happen to be
your
an asshole?
not talking about your disagreements with me. I said that your disagreements with other apologists. If your job is to sit there and talk about authority and how you're not to obey, and you have all this kind of like Protestant nonsensical prattle that you decided to exegete yourself, right? How is it that you think it is your job to correct men?
I didn't exegete it myself. I study under a man.
And he exegeted it?
Have you ever heard of Chuck Missler?
Okay, so he exegeted it for you?
Chuck Missler is a Bible scholar
I
that
don't know. I don't know why, like, anytime I ask you a question, you just refuse to answer it. Like, did he exegete the text for you?
because you use words that are like you're like, oh, he exegeted it when it's like, no, he studied the Bible and I learned under him. I studied under him.
Wait. I see. Do you know what exegesis means?
It means when you're trying to pull meaning out of the scripture that like suits your own preconceived notions. It's a
No, it's
loaded
not.
word.
What? What are you talking about? That serves your preconceived notions? What? Real quick, will you pull up the definition of exegesis and read it for me?
Okay, I confused it with eisegesis, I guess without an X.
Yeah, exegesis. Correct. What is it? What? Can you read it
Right.
for me?
Exegesis is critical interpretation of the text.
Correct.
So yes, he
Exegesis.
exegeted the text. Yes,
Okay, got it.
I
Got it.
confused it with eisegesis,
Okay,
or however you pronounce it.
read what exegesis means. Can you read it for us?
I have to pull it up.
Okay.
But it says that practical interpretation of a text by reading one's own ideas, agendas, or biases into it. So that's what I
Hmm.
thought you were leading with, which is why I was trying
Hmm.
to answer differently because it seemed like you were trying to get me to
Yeah,
say that he was biased.
yeah. You didn't know what exegesis meant, did you?
I confused the terms
How do you confuse the term exegesis? I said it like 50
with
times.
eisegesis because they sound almost exactly
Yeah,
the
yeah,
same.
I know, but I just think that you actually didn't know what the word exegesis meant. Can you just
I've
admit
heard
that?
them both before and I got them backwards.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So he did exegete the text for you then?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so we're going off of his interpretation.
Why do you keep asking like repetitive questions? I said he
Because,
exegeted the text.
yeah, but I'm not asking, there's
It's not
nothing repetitive.
he's not some fringe kook. Like he's a well-renowned Bible scholar. Lots of people study under him. It's not just me.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
he studied at a Bible college.
Got it. Yeah.
Like
All
he
right.
has
Well, I don't really know where else to go with this conversation. It's become rather circular. Unless you have anything else that you want to cover on submission and intersex dynamics, I really don't know how you reconcile the position of we're not going to give men authority, but they should take it anyway. It's just bizarre to me.
I think that both people, both men and women,
Mhm.
need to work on be like we need to as a nation turn back to Christ and both men and women need to increase their biblical literacy. They need to spend more time in the Word. They need to spend more time with Jesus.
Mhm.
And thus, both of them will have more successful marriages because both of them will be working for the good of the other. It's not going to be this divisive competition of like, it's your fault, it's your fault. Like, honestly, it's like if people realize that like marriage is teamwork and you're working towards the same goal and like
Yeah.
you're
So
like
help me
love,
out. So help me out here, right? With
yes.
this. There's a woman, she's on OnlyFans, okay, and she's making $50,000 a month,
Okay.
and she's buying everything to her heart's desire, and she has tons of money, and she's happy as could possibly be, and she's a secularist. How do
Okay.
you convince her to not do OnlyFans? I'd like to actually know how you convince the secularist woman making all of this money that she needs to stop doing that and go submit to a man.
So I would tell her that we are all sinners, that
Hmm.
I myself, chief among them, was a sinner just like her,
Hmm.
and that there was no ultimate gratification in anything like in anything in that life. It's just being used, it's just degrading yourself, it's unfulfilling, and that redemption and forgiveness is found in Jesus Christ, and he
Hmm.
can redeem you, and he can even make you fit to be a wife and mother despite what you've done. And you don't have to give up like living
Great.
a Christ-like life just because like you've established this over here on this side. Like there's redemption and there's
Hmm.
forgiveness to be found in Jesus Christ. And
Now she
that
looks
if
at
she and if
you.
she doesn't,
Hmm.
and if she doesn't,
Hmm.
she choose to accept that, unfortunately, she's trading eternal paradise, for this temporary gratification when after if she refuses Christ, there's an eternity of separation from God, which is unpleasant, all just for this temporary life here that's ultimately going to be unfulfilling anyway.
Okay,
So,
so she looks at you straight in the eyes and she says, "Okay, great. Can you prove to me God exists? Go ahead."
well, I would say obviously the laws of logic, the laws of morality, things like that can't exist under an atheist worldview
Why can't they?
because
Why not?
because if everything comes from a non-directed mindless process,
Hmm.
then there's nothing upon which to assume that we can know anything about the world. You can't have knowledge claims. You certainly can't have moral claims because there's no objective standard of morality. Everything is just subjective, whatever
Yeah.
anyone happens to think.
Ah, the transcendental argument. Oh, okay, says the OnlyFans girl who never will understand any of that. But assuming for a second she knows a little bit about philosophy, she goes, ah, yes, the transcendental argument. I completely 100% agree with you. That doesn't prove God, though.
It proves that there needs to be a creator.
Yeah, it doesn't prove God, though. So it certainly doesn't prove the Christian God.
Okay. So then take into consideration that every
Hmm.
other religion in the world
Hmm.
requires you to work for your salvation. It tells you that if you can be good enough, that you can be saved. Only Christianity, only
That,
Christ
how does that prove
tells
God?
you,
How is this proving
listen,
God?
you said, how does it prove the Christian God? I'm trying to
Yeah,
explain
how does
that.
it prove the Christian
Only,
God?
I'm explaining,
Okay.
only Christianity admits what we all know to be true, that we all fall short
Hmm.
and that we're incapable of saving ourselves, that there's no possible way we can have perfect behavior, and therefore we needed somebody to save us. And that's Christ. Furthermore, the whole Old Testament points to Christ
Hmm.
and outlines Christ's coming before he was born. Okay,
Yeah, can you help me out for how this is proof?
yes, because only God can write a book that tells history in advance. And in Genesis 5, it says that it has the genealogy of Noah,
Hmm.
and the names are in the order that they're written. Their meanings spell out the gospel.
Oh yeah,
It says man.
speaking of that whole Genesis thing, and the whole genealogy, does that mean you think the Earth is 6,000 years old?
Yes,
Oh, okay, gotcha. I'm sure that the OnlyFans girl is going to believe that.
it doesn't matter if she believes it. It doesn't change the truth of it.
Well, I don't know. I thought that your whole shtick was that you're going to convince her to Christian harder.
So now you're just like, of course, there's going to be people that never believe, no matter what you show them. We encounter that all the time.
Yeah, I'm not sure,
But
but I'm
that
not
doesn't
sure
mean
how
you
you
don't tell them
actually
the
proved.
truth.
I'm not sure how you proved the Christian God though. Like, I'm not sure how you
Again,
actually did that. The transcendental argument's just trying to point to a mind, and it's saying
okay.
that a mind is a requirement
So how
for.
does the Bible
Mhm.
predict history in advance unless it's written from a source outside of time?
They'll just say it doesn't.
But I can show how it does. And I
Go
was
ahead.
trying when you
Yeah,
interrupted
yeah,
me.
go ahead. Show how it does.
So I said the names in Genesis 5, the genealogy of Noah,
Hmm.
their meanings, okay, in the order that they're written, is man is appointed mortal sorrow, but the blessed God will come down teaching that his death will bring the despairing comfort and rest.
Okay.
So that's the gospel right there in the name meanings, in the order that they're written in Genesis 5, which we know was written before Christ was even conceived. Like it was written a couple thousand years before Christ, probably, or at least 1,500 years before Christ.
Yeah, but you do realize that the simple counter argument to that was, okay, you just want the prophecies to have been fulfilled, so you made up a Christ.
But no, like you can't make up somebody being crucified and like make up something historically happening. Even Bart Ehrman admits that the figure of Christ is extensively verified even in extra biblical sources.
Yes, but again, they would just say, wait a second, you can literally just say, this guy, he's the Christ.
But lots of people tried. That's why there's 300 prophecies that he had to fulfill to prove he was who he said he was. That's why God put 300 prophecies in place.
Yeah, and they would just say that that's interpretive and that no, he didn't. So like these proofs, so the like I'm serious, that's what they say. So
I
these
understand. I have this
yeah.
argument all
So
the time.
these
I'm just curious what your
mhm.
point is. Like, of
My
course,
point
atheists
is
are
I'm not
obtuse.
sure that this is going to convince an OnlyFans girl to stop doing OnlyFans. That's that's what I'm arguing.
Well, it convinced Nala.
No, it didn't convince Nala. You know what convinced Nala? A man that she wanted to be with. That's what convinced her.
If that's the case, then it's not going to last.
That is
And I guess what
that
like
is 100% the case.
time will prove whether Jesus converted her or if she just converted to impress a man.
Well, I'm not sure that. Well, she had a like a pastor father, right? And so she had at least some kind of foundation. I know because I verbally sparred with her multiple times. So I questioned her on this very topic. And, she gave me all kinds of like feminist prattle bullshit, right? Kind of like you do. But ultimately,
I'm not a
she,
feminist,
she ended,
Andrew.
oh no, you're totally a feminist, egalitarian feminist. But
No, I don't think women are superior to men. I don't think men
no,
need to
you think
submit to
they're,
women. I don't,
yeah,
I would love to see men leading in a like Christ-like capacity. I would love to see it. It's just like like the the standard isn't there. Like men don't even know how to act, and neither do women, and they don't have any role models.
oh, well, great. I mean, um, your kind of argument here is to just talk about how men need to do what you want for authority.
No,
That is what
I've
you said
already said
multiple
that's
times.
not it. I've already said that men, there is a standard that men can follow that will
Mhm.
make women submitting to them easier, and it's in the Bible.
That's
I've
oh
said
my
that
god.
numerous times, and you keep saying that it's about what I want. I'm saying no, it's about what God wants. If
Okay,
they
yeah,
act the way God wants, women will be able to submit to them easier. I'm not saying they'll do it perfectly, but and men are never going to
yeah,
follow
they're not
God
going to do it.
perfectly,
Yeah, they're not going to do
but
it
they'll
at
do a
all.
lot better if they follow what God wants. And nobody's doing what God wants. Everyone's doing what they want, men and women.
Yeah,
Everyone's just doing what they want to do, including you.
okay. I'm doing what I want to do. What does
Yes.
that mean? What am I doing that's
That
bad?
that means that like you also have pride in this, okay? I'm not going to deny that I have pride and that when you insult me, like, yeah, it stings. Like, it's like, okay, call me stupid. That sucks. Call me like a feminist. That sucks. I consider that an insult. But it's like you
Well, it's a lot
also
better than
have
being called.
pride.
It's a lot better than me calling a rapist, isn't it?
I didn't call you a rapist. I
Oh,
said you
you.
described rape
Mm-hmm.
as a solution to repopulating the earth, which
Yeah.
is not something a Christian
Yeah,
man would ever describe,
and
even in a
also
hypothetical.
that never happened, right? So the inference is that you are prescribing rape.
What?
You That's what your position is, that I was prescribing rape.
Someone asked you, how would we repopulate the earth?
Hmm.
And you said, once the band of men gets big enough, then
You.
you go and you just take women.
No, no, no. Was this in the context of a hypothetical?
Yes, but I don't think that that's how a Christian man answers a hypothetical. I think
What?
he would answer like, not hello, hey Christian man, how would you repopulate the earth? He said, how do we repopulate the earth? He didn't say they. He said we. And you were like,
Yeah,
well,
well,
you just form a large
yeah,
enough
he was
band and take
speaking,
whatever women you
yeah,
want.
he was speaking to the hypothetical, right?
Again, I don't see how that makes your answer okay. Like,
Because it's a hypothetical. It's not
but
real.
again, I don't see why that would be the answer. Like from a Christian man, I feel like a Christian man wouldn't say that. Like, just so I said, why would you describe? And I said, but I never called you a rapist.
I feel. No, you just inferred it. That's all. You just said I'm prescribing
I didn't
rape.
know. I didn't infer that you. I don't think you've ever raped anybody, Andrew. But I just think you made a really crass, unthinking joke.
No, it
Like
wasn't.
that was
Wasn't
inappropriate
even a joke.
for a man who
Nope,
calls himself
nope.
a Christian to say.
Wasn't even a joke, and I stand by it 100% within the confines of the hypothetical. I was 100% correct.
Well, I guess you stand by it then.
I do. Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
surprised that you do, after knowing that it's a hypothetical being corrected 800 times and still running with it.
I think in the context of hypothetical, it was still a bad answer,
Oh, okay, got it.
even in the context of a hypothetical.
Even though literally there was nothing that was said which was incorrect, right? Like nothing, but still it's a bad answer. Okay, got it. Well, anyway, this has been entertaining, I guess, to say the least. But it's 4 o'clock in the morning. You got to go to bed. So, do you have anything else that you wanted to say?
I just pray that everyone here repents and follows Jesus Christ.
Great advice. I just kind of wonder, kind of, and this is my last little like kind of parting shot at you. Um, what what do you think the idea of submission and usurping men's authority. What do you think it's going to do when you're running around telling them, well, hey, you can only have authority if you do it the way women want you to. I want you to remember at the very start of this combo.
That's not what I'm
Yeah, I
saying.
want you to remember the very start of that combo.
That's not what I
I
say,
want you
though.
to
I
remember
don't
at the
say
very
you can
start of
only
that
have
combo.
authority if you do what women
I
want. I
want
say that
you
you need to read the Bible
I want you to remember
and
the
follow the
beginning of the
Bible.
combo. You said this is mostly men's fault.
Yes, I said that since men are in charge, like anyone who's a leader is going to bear the brunt of the blame for anything that goes wrong.
Which
That's
is
how it works in the
exactly
military.
why
That's how it works anywhere.
but leaders are supposed to be obeyed.
And leaders often aren't obeyed when they're bad leaders.
Well, no, or you just don't want to obey them, right?
Or they're bad leaders. A lot of people love to get behind a good leader. I loved having a good leader in the military. It was the best.
Yeah, oh
A
yeah,
leader who
yeah,
takes care of his soldiers, who
yeah,
makes good decisions. Yes, leader like a good leader is easy to obey.
yeah. So men just need to lead harder.
Men need to lead better and they need to lead more like Christ. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. And so once they do that, the women are going to submit, right?
I think they'll find it a lot easier to get women to submit. I don't think it's ever going to be perfect until we're on the other side.
Okay.
But I think that they'll find a lot easier time if they model themselves after Christ and sanctify themselves first and foremost rather than pointing fingers at women.
Okay. I'll make sure to let the tens of thousands of Christians I know who are in these horrific situations, because women are doing absolutely horrible fucking things to them, that they should have just led harder. Because, well, the thing is, you're the leader. The brunt of this is on you. And even though we live in an egalitarian society where there's absolutely no consequences for women's bad behavior, I'm certain that it's men's fault. They're just not leading well enough. Right? That our party.
Again, you focus on what you could control your own behavior. It's really hard to control other people. It's a lot easier though if you come into an agreement and establish trust.
You don't want your husband to control you?
I do want him to control me. I'm
Well,
saying that you
then what are you
complaining
talking
about what
about?
I'm
What?
saying you complaining about what, like you giving men advice to worry about
Well,
all the ways that women are doing wrong.
I don't give out advice.
Oh, okay. So worry for men deciding to worry only about the ways women are falling short is doing them no favors. It means that they have no motivation to fix themselves. The only way that the world gets better is if everyone self-reflects, not just like points the finger at everybody else.
Oh,
Like, yes, women need to stop doing OnlyFans. Women need to stop sleeping around. Like, fathers need to stick around and raise their daughters and sons better.
all right. Well,
Like men need to self-reflect about porn usage.
yeah,
They need to
yeah, I got
stop
it.
utilizing
Got it.
porn.
Yeah,
Like
everybody. Oh, yeah,
everybody needs
got
to
it.
self-reflect.
Yeah, got it. I'm sure that they will. Anyway, I appreciate the convo. I would listen to this again, right? At the end of this, the last 30 minutes, I've just kind of let you talk so that you feel better about, well, I don't know, whatever excuse you have later about how mean I am and blah, 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 blah. So can't say I wasn't charitable at the end of this, right?
I have no complaints.
Okay, great. All right. Well, have a good night.
You too.
All right. All right.